5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Okay, yes, Dugroz Eats was not a real thing. It was just a April Fool's Day joke. But in honor of that, and thanks to the positive reception, I will be adding a segment for the foreseeable future to my live streams called something like Food That I Like, or What Did I Eat Last Week, or something like that. So we'll start that today. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, April the 5th, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Thank you all for bearing with me, those of you who got on board at 9:30 Central Time and wondered where I was. I had to have a 15-minute late start today. My son was applying for or getting hired for his first part-time job, so I had to kind of walk him through a few things this morning. They're doing plays at their school. Last night was a late drama practice, and then they all went to the Minecraft movie together, and a very late night combined with an early start this morning just led to a lot of stuff. So thanks for bearing with me. We've got a lot of visitors on board. We have Andrew Beach and Mike Newland, who's a big-time diehard. John R., top of the morning. Ian M., how'd you make out in March? Did you hit $400? Thank you for asking, Ian. Yes, I did. I actually cleared it by a healthy margin. So celebrate. I got my first ever $400 worth of net revenue in a month. Matt Clausen's also on board. Ahoy, hoy. Thank you, Mr. Burns' voice. Tom Graber has arrived. A $5 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate your ongoing patronage. Also a diehard, as is Dad on a Mission, TM Cowling, Scott McDonald. Mike reminds everyone to hit that like button, and I agree. When you click like, more people come on board. The algorithm says, hey, people like this. Let's cause more people to watch, and it'll be more and more recommended. John R. says, I do love to eat. I really do. And slap the like button with his very appreciated, very consistent $2 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. Seabass is on board. He's a Dugroz diehard. And by the way, for all of you wondering, what do I mean Dugroz diehard? That's a channel member. So anyone who has that squiggly little symbol to the right of their name is a channel member. It's only $3 a month. Cancel anytime. And 80% of whatever I get goes towards reinvesting in this channel. I'll probably be upgrading to the paid version of StreamYard soon. Hopefully I get out of this narrow box and have a little bit wider view that way, as well as maybe investing in a new phone and some other stuff. And then, of course, I have a family to support, and I want to support my family a little on my channel. So 20% of what I make goes towards that. Won't someone think of the children? Happy Tom says, hey, it's crowded in here. And it sure is. Another diehard. Ian drops a $9.99 super chat and says, here's to $500. Well, hopefully the month of April will be a $500 month. Celebrate. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yep, new again. We are the Dugroz Dopes. That would also be a good username. Dugroz Diehard Dopes. Don Kim and Yuri BSU says, heading to Italy with the family for 8 nights this coming week. We'll miss 1 or 2 lives. Keep up the good work, sir. Well, congratulations, Yuri, on getting to go to Italy with the family. Let us know on the back end how that goes. Certainly understand you missing a couple things. That's no problem. All right, let's start, as is tradition, like we normally do, with Dugroz data points. Data point number 1. By the way, let me know if the audio is okay. Southwest Airlines is now asking frequent flyers whether major changes will make them defect to rival carriers. Hat tip here is to a website called Paddle Your Own Canoe, or sometimes they abbreviate it PYOK, kind of like that. I'm not real familiar with this website. They spell canoe with a K, but I'm sure you can Google it. Just came up on my phone as a recommendation. And if I'm reading this correctly, basically Southwest is sending out surveys to frequent flyers and just asking them, hey, we know we're crapifying our program. Is that going to make you defect to another carrier? So Maybe there's some contrition there. Maybe they're going to roll back some of their crappy changes, like, only earning 2 points per dollar on the lowest level. The one that really gets me is the fact that if you get a flight credit, it will now expire, because a lot of us have used Southwest as kind of our backup flights in the past. So no, sir, I don't like it. So that's Dugroz data point number 1. Austin Strand has arrived. Sorry, I'm late. First time I'm coming in live rather than watching the replay. No need to apologize. And I'm super glad to meet you on the live for the first time. Thank you, Austin. And we do have 49 people on board. So the thumbs upping is going well. Please do so if you've not yet done so. Pyock, says Ian. Yeah, that's how I read it. I felt like I threw my live stream together today, but really I just spent a ton of time on the main event rather than the data points. So the data points are going to be a little more thin, a little more personal rather than around the web today, but that's okay. The theme of the day today is the 5-card Endgame wallet, or the perfect one. And I'll give some hat tips when we get to the main event, the theme of the day. But basically, let's say you were not allowed to open any new credit cards after a certain point, and you had to kind of position yourself for your 5 cards that will never, or at least rarely change. What 5 cards would you choose and why? And we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, let's move on to a different Dugroz data point here. How about this one right here? It says Chase Sapphire Reserve has announced new pay yourself back categories. Hat tip here to the Doctor of Credit. 1.25% pay yourself back on groceries, gas, pets, and annual fee. Let's get a little more detail by zooming in here. Grocery stores, excluding Target and Walmart, are 1.25 cents per point. Likewise, gas stations, 1.25 cents per point. Pet supply and veterinary services, same. Annual fee, same. Select charities, 1.5. If you like the select charities, it works out, but you can only choose from a list of their charities. If it was any charity, that'd be a big deal. My first thought is grocery stores and gas stations. That's basically a way you can indirectly cash out for 1.25 cents per point. And you could do that a couple different ways. One is you could do the gift card buying thing, go to a gas station, buy an Amazon gift card, cash out at 1.25 cents per point. Go to your favorite grocery store. Like in my area, it's Hy-Vee. Buy a Hy-Vee gift card or a Fairway gift card or a Safeway or Ralph's or whatever. And then use that at 1.25 cents per point. Or the second way is just cash is fungible. You can move cash around. So say you're going to spend $100 on groceries anyway, buy $100 worth of groceries that you would normally buy, pay yourself back on that, and then deposit that equivalent amount of money into your travel savings account because your family budget is not having to absorb it. So it's kind of a backdoor cash out is my first thought. If it was 1.5, it'd be really exciting. Otherwise, it's not that exciting. You could also buy travel grocery cards or gift cards at a grocery store or gas station. Like I know Chad Pennycuff buys thousands of dollars worth of Disney gift cards every year. I am kind of on an Airbnb kick right now, so I might buy some Airbnb gift cards, those sorts of things. So that's what made me think about. Comment catch up. Andrew Beach says good morning. Mojo says good morning. Happy Final Four day. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. None of the teams here in Iowa are still in, so it's not caught my attention as much as it has in years past. Next, Dugroz data point. So remember last week I said I rated the pantry at a Hilton. This was a home to suite / true. Good news, the statement credit posted. So although it's not ideal, if you want to use your quarterly Hilton credit to buy $50 worth of Hot Pockets and Lunchables that are severely overpriced, it is an option. So at least I'm glad that it worked and the statement credit posted. This is on my wife's business platinum that's showing on the screen right now. But I also used my Hilton Surpass, $30 to eat a meal at a Hilton. That posted. $20 to get some Lunchables at the True. That also posted. So it worked both ways. So let me know Did any of you have any last minute Hilton runs before March 31st? I'd be interested to hear what you did with those. Next Dugroz data point, also something of a personal nature. So back in January, I shared with you that we're getting a second Aeroplan card in my household. And this one is my wife's. And I'd like to be able to max out the 200,000 points of pay myself back on our European vacation this summer to pay for things like tours, cruises, parking lots, boats, miscellaneous travel. One of the Hiltons we're staying at, the cash rate is much lower and better than the points rate. So we're actually going to be paying for a 3-day, or maybe it's 4-day, I don't remember which one, hotel stay with pay yourself back that way. So good news is there was a sign-up bonus, and it was one of those tranched sign-up bonuses. Spend, I think it was $6,000, you get 75,000 Aeroplan points. And then there was another tranche where you have to spend like 20,000, which I'm not going to do. But it posted. Her statement closed a few days ago, and we got it. I had already moved in roughly ballpark 120,000, and then the regular spend plus the 75,000 bonus is now posted, and we have our 200,000 Aeroplan points ready to go. Actually, 204,000. Austin says, interesting on the CSR. I'm about to upgrade my CSP to a CSR due to not being pre-approved for Capital One Venture X. Yeah, that is a good fallback plan, I feel like, cashing out at 1.25 cents per point. Kirby says, hello, everyone. And Andrew wants to add this data point. For those who are on Freedom 5% Amazon, it works at Whole Foods. Okay, yeah. If you're a Whole Foodie, score. Next, Dugroz data point. This one's pretty routine, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Speaking of my wife's Aeroplan card, she went to get her TSA PreCheck last week. I went with her, and the company that administers around here is called IDEMIA, whatever. $76.75 to get TSA PreCheck. I was going to use my US Bank Altitude Reserve with mobile wallet to get 3x, but when I got there, they wouldn't allow tap to pay. You had to physically swipe the card. So as a backup plan, I had my wife's, the card we just saw, the Aeroplan card, and it's one of the many that gives you either TSA PreCheck, Global Entry, or whatever that weird Canadian thing is called. And it posted, so got the free TSA PreCheck. She'll have that for 5 years. I had it last time we went to Europe. She did not, because I kept encouraging her to get it. She's like, oh, I'm just so busy, I don't have time. But then she saw me fly through security with the boys. And that's a really big deal in our family, because one of my sons has type 1 diabetes. So he has to carry 5 pounds worth of medical supplies with him. And in the TSA PreCheck line, they just kind of look at it. In the plebeian line, they have to take it out, swipe it, scan it super carefully. So that's a huge deal in our family, TSA PreCheck versus having to go through the normal people line. TH has stopped by and drops a $2 super chat. Saturday morning ritual. Celebrate, celebrate. Indeed. Thank you, TH. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Move along, move along. Okay, I want to just brag a little bit, but in addition to bragging, just tell you why my family has 4 different Freedom cards. So between the Freedom Flex and the OG Freedom, between those two, my wife and I have one each. She has a Freedom and a Freedom Flex. I have a Freedom and a Freedom Flex, which they stupidly still emboss the numbers on the front. But there is my Freedom Flex card, just to prove that I really do have it. And last quarter was groceries, and groceries is probably the best quarter for me. And I will admit, most of that comes down to creative purchases of gift cards, strategic purchases, using your money in strategic and careful ways. And I darn near maxed it out. I came really, really close to maxing it out this quarter. So just wanted to show you that on my Freedom OG, $1,455. On my Freedom Flex, I did max it out, $1,500. Actually went over by about $3, but I'm not terribly worried about that $3 where I only got 1x. On my wife's Freedom OG, 1,494 and change. And then on my wife's Freedom Flex, 1,445 and change. So 1,500 per card is the maximum you can do and get the 5%. 2 cards each, double that. You got 4 cards times 1,500. The max out would be $6,000, and we spent a total of $5,896.42. So that's 98.27% of the possible bandwidth. And if you're wanting to know what the math comes out, 5,896, I'll round down to the nearest whole dollar, times 5 points per dollar. That comes out to 29,480 Chase Ultimate Reward points, almost 30,000. So that's kind of like getting a sign-up bonus without actually having to have a hard pull or do a sign-up bonus. So that's why I like to keep 4 Freedom cards in my household. Grocery is about the only quarter where we actually max out or get within 98% of maxing out. Gas would be the second easiest. Pharmacies possible. But that's why. If you're ever wondering why you see my list of cards, you see 4 Freedom cards, you roll your eyes. That's why. Andrew says, recent trip. TSA doesn't even look at your boarding pass, see if the pre-check is there. Is that normal? Both PDX and BNA didn't check the boarding pass prior to admitting. If you have a digital boarding pass, I think it's somehow built into the QR code so they know. If it's a paper pass, maybe that's a way to get around it. I know I did one at the Des Moines airport where they definitely checked because I had TSA PreCheck, but I forgot to put my known traveler number on the reservation. So they basically let me cut in line, but once I got to the front, they sent me over to the plebeian line and I had to take my shoes off and everything. So make sure you put it into your reservation on your app before you get going with that. Ian asked this question. Hold on, I have a nose thing going on. And here's the question. If somebody gave you 125,000 Amex points, would you gamble 80,000 of it? Etihad Booking has a 25% cancellation policy, which would be only 80K, or at least would be 80K in this case. Only a 75% chance I can take the flight, but it's first class apartments. Oh, up until I read those last 3 words, first class apartments, I was going to say, no, I don't want to gamble. I like a sure thing. I like a guarantee. Let's see if I can move the camera here so my chin shows. I like a guarantee. But man, with his Etihad apartments, yeah, I would gamble it for Etihad apartments. That's kind of a once in a lifetime thing. Mojo agrees and said, no risk it, no biscuit. Filmo says, beat by a smidge. I spent $0 across 2 cards. Womp womp. Must be referring to the Freedom and Freedom Flexes. Ian says, very true. Wife doesn't want to stay in airport hotels from 12:15 a.m. until flight leaves at 9 a.m. Would rather just fly home direct on, that's probably ancient JAL Sky Suites. Is it just because she doesn't know what it is? I mean, the apartments. Having said that, wife points are greater than airline points. So keep that in mind. TH says, do you have any tips and tricks to max those Freedom Flex and members only videos? Asking for a friend. In a roundabout way, I do, but not in a direct way. I'll keep that in mind for a future members only video. But yeah, I'll just come right out and say it. I do manufacture spend some, but I only talk about my manufactured spending on the members only videos. And I do have 2 of them on there. So got to get that little squiggly symbol by your name, TH. Only the nose knows. Yuri BSU said to Ian, I would risk it. Who knows for how long and any points about sweet spot would be around. Risk it for the biscuit, as Uncle Luke says. Filmo says, getting ready to head to DTW. Have a great weekend, Doug and everyone. I sure will. What is DTW? Is that Detroit? That sounds right. Fly safe, Filmo. Wife greater than airline points. I need to get that tattooed on my face. Maybe not your face. How about your forearm? Right about there. Tom Graber also likes that quote. Wife points are greater than airline points. Dugroz. Truer words were never spoken. Mike says, seems like you always go to DTW Filmo, and John confirms it is, in fact, Detroit. Thanks for having my back. Whoa, 62 people on board, and we haven't even got to the main event. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. Click, cleeping. I'm sorry, guys. I only got like 5 hours of sleep last night. I don't think I had a small stroke, but who knows? Please keep clicking the thumbs up button. All right. Next Dugroz data point. This one isn't going to make any sense without an explanation. This is a picture of me holding a Snickers cookie, which to be honest was kind of meh, but it helps me remember what happened. So yesterday I had to go to a school event for my kids, or I got the privilege of going to it. It was like a solo day where all the kids come up and play their band instruments. And, you know, they do solos and stuff. My son plays percussion, so bells and snare drum, along with their teacher who plays the piano with them. Anyhow, on the way back home, I stopped at a gas station. This is the Hy-Vee gas station, Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh. It's in a different part of town than I normally go through because I took a different route. If you know the Des Moines area, it's on Merle Hay Road. Anyway, I bought a cookie, pictured, and I tried to buy a $100 gift card to Amazon. Speaking of gift card buying, because I need to get some more points for my US Bank Altitude Reserve. I've got a car rental coming up when I go to Albany within the next 5 weeks. And I have almost, but not quite enough points to cover it. And my statement closes in like 3 or 4 days. I don't know why I looked at the clock. I need to look at the calendar. 3 or 4 days. It closes somewhere between the 7th and the 10th. I don't remember. So I wanted to have some more points. So I'm like, I know I'll buy an Amazon gift card. Fair warning, with the Altitude Reserve, it's grandfathered. So if you don't have it, it's probably too late. But you can get, you just want to be careful about gift card buying. US Bank is somewhat sensitive to like gift card buying and manufactured spending, but I used to buy $100 Amazon gift cards all the time. Back when there was this app called, I don't know, I always call it the P app. It was spelled PEI, that would give you like 5% cash back on a few things. And it went defunct well over a year ago. But anyway, I would buy a $100 gift card to Amazon at Kohl's and Staples and sometimes Home Depot if they had them, all in the same month. So a $100 gift card here and there is not going to hurt anything. So I went to buy that, and I've done it at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh many times. And I got to the cash register and gave my cookie and my gift card, and I said, just these. And the cashier was a young man. He said, what are you paying with? And I said, Apple Pay. He said, credit or debit? And I was like, I'm not going to lie. I got to tell the truth. So I was like, well, it's Apple Pay. Pause. I was hoping he would say something like, it's Apple Pay. Oh, that's fine. But after the pause, he just looked at me. I said, it's linked to a credit card. And said, oh, we don't allow credit cards for gift cards. You can only buy with debit or cash. We've had a lot of fraud lately. And I'm like, just the cookie then, because I'm not going to buy it with a debit card and not make any cash back at all. But the interesting thing is other Hy-Vees, other Hy-Vee Fast and Freshes are totally cool with buying gift cards with anything. I mean, sometimes they don't even look at the card. They don't even look at my mobile wallet. So it is highly dependent based on location. It was it's not in a bad part of town, but maybe a slightly rougher part of town. You know, there's a lot of payday loan type businesses up and down that street. If you know, you know. So just kind of a thing to throw out there that even in the attempt to buy gift cards within the same chain, same store, it can vary location to location what they do and don't allow. Mojo says, by chance, anyone know when gift card purchasing will be back for Surpass card holders? At Doug Dugroz reports. Hey, that's me. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever coming back. On the website, it said give us 8 weeks, and that was 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago. I don't know. So I have a feeling we're going to come away with not being able to do it, but that's just a gut feeling. Filmo says, I got to win these rap battles. Rap battles. Interesting. Not sure what that's referencing. MR said, stroke of genius, more like it. I didn't have a small stroke. I had a stroke of genius. Thanks for being here, MR. Hey, look, TH did go ahead and pull the trigger and become a channel member. Celebrate, celebrate. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. And he says, long overdue. Interesting. Kirby G says, I used to work at a gas station in Wisconsin, and while I was there, we had to stop taking credit cards for prepaid visas. Yep. Them's the breaks, but it tends to happen. Next Dugroz data point, and I need to get a hat tip to a frequent viewer of the channel, Rewards Master. Last week on the live stream, he told me that if you don't feel like signing up for the Taco Bell rewards program, check Upside because it frequently has great deals at Taco Bell. And first of all, I'd forgotten I have $42 in my Upside account. But secondly, I did check it while sitting in the lobby of Taco Bell, and they offered 21% cash back. That's pretty good. So Upside of 21%. And that's what it gave me a receipt. Since we're all on what I eat, I had the steak grilled cheese burrito combo with a large Mountain Dew and a crunchy taco on the side. I also got some avocado ranch with it. It's still pending in my Upside. I hope it works okay because I wanted to use my, again, USBAR with tap to pay. I had to get a paper receipt, and there's no option for that in the kiosk, so I had to awkwardly walk up to the front desk and be like, can I get a paper receipt? And the uninspired 19-year-old was like, and just turns around and walks away. And I got the impression it was the let me go ask my manager walk away, but he didn't actually say anything. Manager comes and gets me the paper receipt, and I take the picture, and I think everything will be cool, but I'll let you know if it is not. So Taco Bell Upside app, not a bad idea. Andrew says, was the Hilton gift card only a physical card? Yes, up until like December 20th or something like that. Maybe they're changing vendors. I can't imagine Hilton wouldn't want to make money. Gift cards occasionally don't get used. Yeah, but since American Express issues the Hilton credit cards, wouldn't American Express want to be in charge of issuing them? That's what I'm thinking. I also don't understand why they don't want to, because those things are so hard to use. I would think they're making truckloads of money on it. I'm with you on that last sentence there. David Gomez is here. I'm here. Sorry I'm late. That's okay. And Spaceco is here. How you doing? It says to Filmo, world, I always knew you lived that 8-mile life. That has something to do with the rap battle reference, I'm presuming, although I don't get the reference, and that's okay. I don't get a lot of references. Let's keep going. Good to see you, Spaceco. Always appreciate your discussion over on the Stack Your Points Discord. Next, Dugroz data point. Chase and the Lyft partnership are extended through 2027 with some good news and some bad news. They added a $10 credit and lowered the earnings to 5x. So couple key features. You're going to get a new $10 monthly credit on Lyft through the Sapphire Reserve. And to be more specific, you now earn 5x points per dollars. That's down previously from 10x. You don't get a Lyft Pink benefit anymore either. Although I think if you signed up for the Pink benefit before a certain point, it continues through 2027, something like that. I'm not much of a rideshare person. The only time I've used it in a big time way was in Washington, D.C., once in Sweden, a couple times in New Orleans. So it doesn't really come into play for me. But I am thinking when I travel next RIP trip in Albany, I might need to, I'm going to get into the airport very late and take the free airport shuttle to get to the hotel. But I have a really tight schedule in the morning, so I might take Lyft from the hotel back to the airport to pick up my rental car. I didn't want to pay for a whole extra day of rental car just to sit around and not use it. So it could come in handy here and there if you need to shuttle from the airport to a hotel, something like that. So since I have the CSR anyway, this actually suits me better. Now, somebody I saw in the comment section did a bunch of calculations, like if you spend this much per month, you actually come out better with the higher earnings. And I realize if you're using Lyft constantly, that would be the case. But in my case, the $10 credit occasionally is better. Now, it would be great if Lyft started a competition to Uber Eats. They had Lyft Eats or Dugroz Eats. Maybe they could sponsor me. And you could get food with it instead of just rides. But so far, that is not a reference. Where were we? Juan Garcia's arrived, says, good morning. Late but here. That's okay. Cesar, likewise, late to the party. But I'm also happy to see you, Hermano. And let's see. Andrew says 8 miles a reference to Detroit. I do know just from my love of geography that there's an 8-mile road in Detroit. And I think some rapper did mention that somehow. It's like, this is the division between the poor areas and the better areas or something. So I kind of get the reference. Matt asks this, any office supply store sell Dollar General gift cards? Not that I know of, but feel free to chime in if anyone else knows differently. That would be an interesting arbitrage. Someone said they found a store that sells Walmart gift cards, kind of an obscure one, and I don't remember which one they're referencing. Some store where you could actually walk in and use like your tap to pay or something like that. So if you know what I'm thinking of, let me know. A lot of people saying good morning to each other. Chad's Money Minutes has arrived. Yo, how you doing, Chad? Good to see you this morning. Lots of people referencing Chad arriving, etc. And Andrew says, has anyone seen the Sapphire referral links in their app yet? Mine shows, but still at 60K. Sapphire preferred up to 100K now, but we're not seeing it quite yet. Lyft Eats would sure be nice. Chad is here. Please keep your videos under 10 minutes. Well, this live stream is going to be more than 10 minutes. I can say that. I do actually endeavor to keep my videos, I think 8 to 12 minutes roughly. I haven't watched Chad's latest rant, but I have a clue as to what it might be about. I feel like when I'm watching videos on YouTube, there's almost like this mental barrier. Like if it's more than 12 minutes and change, I'm not going to watch like, that's too long. Even if it's like, well, I'm going to bed. I've got time for one more video. I can't watch a 15-minute video. I'll just watch this 7-minute video. And then I watch like 3 of them. But for some reason, it's like this mental block. I can't watch a 21-minute video. The 8 Mile reference was by Eminem. Juan lets me know. Thank you very much. 8 Mile was a biographic movie, adds Matt. Who would have thought we'd be talking a lot of rap this morning here on Dugroz's channel? Luke is here. How you doing? Luke says, Sheetz gas station sold Walmart gift cards. Is that past tense as in they don't anymore? I don't have any Sheetz in my area. But if I take a trip to Sheetz, like outside my geographic area, I do see them occasionally. Ding, ding. Kirby prefers 45 minutes video. Some people like long form. I get that. Matt says I go on for 10 to 15 to 18. Yeah, to each their own. That's just me. So there's some interesting news kind of embedded within this Lyft update. By the way, that was Hat Tip Doctor of Credit again. In the comment section, somebody said this. Someone named Meg. Dumpster fire update. I have the CSP and CFF Freedom Flex, and I'd pay using the Chase Freedom Flex to get the monthly $5 MasterCard discount. And I'm like, what? And this guy named Eric says, what $5 MasterCard discount are you referring to? I've never heard of this. Since I have the CSP, this is a no change for me. And somebody else named Eastside BK says this benefit has been around a long time through MasterCard. It's a $5 Lyft credit after 3 rides in 1 month. The Chase stack is only available on the Freedom Flex, not the Freedom OG, since the other cards are Visas. And sure enough, I did a little searching. Maybe I went to that link right there. And here's what I found. Public service announcement. Thank you to random people on the comment section of Doctor of Credit. It says right here, you can earn a Lyft credit every month. I literally didn't know this. Take 3 eligible rides in a month and earn $5 in Lyft credit with your World or World Elite MasterCard. Who knew? Now, unfortunately, the Wells Fargo Autograph is a Visa. Otherwise, that would be a great choice. I don't remember. Does the custom cash include transit and ride shares as one of their 5% categories? I just can't remember. What else might work? A MasterCard. I think of like the Choice Hotels card, but I don't think that gives anything on transit. Correct me if I'm wrong. IHG cards don't. So anybody got a great idea for how to max that out? Obviously, if you have Freedom Flex in a rotating 5X category, that would be great. As for video length, Cesar says, it depends on the topic. For redemptions and how-to videos, I don't mind if the creator's not wasting time. I'd rather watch a 20-minute useful video than a 5-minute clickbait video. That's true. Matt Clausen says the Wells Fargo Attune has ride share at 4%, and it's a MasterCard. That's great, because if you teamed it up with the aforementioned autograph, you could get X, not just percent. In other words, you get transferable currencies. Is the OG Freedom a Visa card? Yes, it is, Andrew. What up, Chad? MR says the price you pay for the same rides with Uber would be more than $5 less expensive. Yeah, somebody mentioned that in the comment section too. They said, I find Uber's always less expensive. I am not an expert. I have very little experience, but my one rather limited data point is when we traveled around Washington, D.C. last summer, I found that Lyft was cheaper than Uber about 75% of the time. I checked them every single time. But somebody else said in the comments, it's very regional dependent. QC Man is here. How you doing, QC Man? Hope the quality control is going well. That benefit has been around a while. You can use the Saver or any other number of cards. Saver, yes, that's right. Although the Saver doesn't have a transit or travel category that I know of. Correct me if I'm wrong. It makes the AA card benefit a little devalued. It gives you $10 a month, but you'd be getting $5 a month anyway. Yes, and I didn't read the full text here. You'll notice it says if you have a Citi/American Airlines Executive MasterCard, you get $10 on 3 rides in any given month. Where were we? Okay. Ian says, so many people, Spencer, Anthony, have videos that are way too long. I need them shortened to the point. Some of mine are way too long as well, but I'm hearing you all. Kirby, I just hit my first IHG milestone as someone who has no non-work planned IHG stays. Would you take 5K points, 1 suite upgrade, or 2 $20 food credits? It's time for some math. Let's do the math together, Kirby. So I'm going to grab my calculator on my iPhone 8, which, by the way, remind me to come back to a comment about the iPhone 8 after I address this comment. And I'm going to pull up my calculator here. So we've got 5,000 IHG points, and I value that at 0.00. Do I use 0.7 or 0.5? Because on the redemption side, I would say 0.7. 0.5 on the person. I'm going to split the difference, go 0.6 of a point. So that's worth $30. So would a suite upgrade be worth $30? Yeah, it would be worth more than that. So I would probably, if I knew for sure I had a stay coming up where a suite upgrade would be helpful, I'd take that. Otherwise, I'd take the $2 $20 food credits. Since the card comes with platinum but not diamond status, so you're not guaranteed a free meal at a place that's higher level than like a Holiday Inn Express, I would take the $2 $20 food credits. But thanks for working through that. All right, quick comment on my good old iPhone 8. I hit the first roadblock of why I absolutely have to upgrade within the last week or two, and it's on the Charles Schwab app. So I use Charles Schwab for some stuff, money markets and whatnot. Actually, that's where my travel savings account lives. And I got an update that says the Charles Schwab mobile app is no longer accessible on iOS devices with operating systems older than 17. And it gives you instructions on how to download it. I went to do that, and it said, I'm sorry, your phone is too old for operating system 17, but enjoy your 16.999 or whatever it is. So I can no longer use the Charles Schwab app on my phone. And it's a perfectly cromulent phone. It's working great. Why do I have to upgrade? But I wanted to upgrade anyway for the sake of the channel because I want to get a better camera. That's the main drawback, is my camera doesn't work well. I actually prefer to have my tap to pay with my thumb on the button than the look at it thing. Random pet peeve here. When you go to a fast food place and you go through the drive-thru and you say, can I use Apple Pay? And they do this. Sure. And they hold their hand out. It's like, no, I want you to put the thing out the window and let me do it. In my case, I have to. I went to Culver's earlier this week. I think it was just 2 days ago. And she's like, oh, we only have the kind where I hold it up to the register. And then I've had times where, like, my friend wants to show a coupon or something and they take the phone. I don't know how comfortable I am with somebody unlocking their phone by looking at it and then handing it to someone else. So get it together, Culver's. Have one of those things like McDonald's does, a tap to pay on a pole. TM Callie, you could use Aeroplan and pay yourself back while getting the Lyft credit. Mind blown. I not only can do that, I will do that. Thank you, TM. That's a tremendous idea. If I need to use Lyft in Europe. Andrew says, after watching the Uber documentary, I don't think I'll ever take an Uber. I had the same response to Social Network and Facebook. I get that. I haven't watched the documentary, to be honest with you, but Lyft is fine. Good morning. Spaithco, $5 super chat. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Spaithco. I appreciate your patronage and for being a diehard. Here's what he says. Lyft is for drunk people who don't want to mess their Uber rating from puking in the car. Here's $5 just so you can skip experiencing that 3X. That's funny. Thank you for the $5. I've never puked in any sort of professional vehicle that I know of. Never in an airplane, never in a ride share, never in a train, never in a, I was going to say limo, but I've never even been in a limo, never in a taxi. I've thrown up like in my mom's car, but put your best vomiting in a public transportation story down below. Luke Johnson. I don't think we've met before, Luke. How you doing? Happy to have you on board. The Bilt MasterCard does, in fact, work for the $5 Lyft monthly credit when 3 rides take within a month. And I don't remember, does Bilt give 5X on travel, including transit? Or 3X, I mean? Ian would take the suite upgrade for Kirby's question. I don't have the IHG card yet. Okay, well then, definitely I'd take the food vouchers. Luke says, I wouldn't use 0.5 unless you can purchase unlimited amounts. With the cap, I'd use the redemption value. Good point. I'll keep that in mind for future reference. I'm not going to go back and redo the math right now. Yeah. Although, what is the cap? It's pretty high, and I know you're doing your epic taking family members to Hawaii, and you do a lot more IHG stays than I do. But in my case, it's like if I buy the max and my wife buys the max, I doubt we'd go over the cap. And now that she has the business account, she can transfer the points to me for free. C-Man's calling out Spaithco and saying, I guess you're telling us how wild your weekends get. Stan the man, the credit frog is here. Good morning, Dugroz, everyone. Good to see you, Stan. Chambe Halasalale. Halas. I'm going to go with that. I apologize if I mispronounced it. Says, good morning. City finally approved me. The City Strata card with a 10K limit after so many tries. Ding, ding, ding. I'm super happy for you, Chambe. Thanks for coming on board. Thanks for sharing with us. In certain use cases, that City Strata Premier can be a tippity top card. You just have to put up with their customer service. What do you have? iPhone 4? I have iPhone 8, QC, man. I am twice as good as the 4. Congrats, Chambe. Let's see. Kirby says McDonald's would write us up if we even touched someone's phone back in 2019. It's probably how it should be. Ian says, do people really know or worry about their rideshare rating? I barely even know about mine. Chambe says, I guess if you want something, don't give up with city cards. That's a good point. Thank you for sharing. Flying Squirrels, haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Flying Squirrels, the turtle says, redeeming 2 Hilton free night certificates soon. Wife has gold status, but I have silver. Crying. Is there any sneaky way to combine reservations to get the food and beverage credit both days just off her status? So I'm guessing the free night certs are in your names, but the gold status will be in your wife's name is what you're telling me. Sadly, I don't think there are because the free night certificates are tied to your account, unfortunately. All I could say is maybe book it in her name and then show up at the front desk and say, like, after you've already checked in, okay, one in each name. So the obviously the one that's in your wife's name and she has the gold status, no problem there. But the one that's in your name and the wife's gold status, after you check in, maybe go to the front desk and say something like, hey, can I switch the Hilton ID number to my account and still use the free night certificate? Maybe they'll let you. I just don't know. I've never tried that. In my family, I keep all the Hilton status in my name. And one thing I love about Hilton is the free sharing of points. There is a cap on how much you can share, but it's like this insanely super high amount. It's not insanely super high. It might be 100,000 a year, but That's enough for us. And I just put it all in my name and we get the food and beverage credit under my name. Matt says, Bilt does specify 5X on Lyft. Super. That would be a tremendous combo if you use Lyft a lot. Chris Sevy's on board. How you doing, Chris? Your rideshare rating and profile photo are shown with your destination. I saw many Lyft drivers reject a ton of riders in Orlando for whatever reason. Luke clarifies the same thing that Matt did about the 5X on Lyft. Ian says, move all the free night shifts to the wife's account. Just call. Hey, I'm glad somebody else had experience with that. I didn't know FNCs were transferable, but apparently they are. Thank you so much. Hey, and look who showed up. It's my man X, Xavier, dropping a $4.99 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Xavier. I really appreciate that, my man. Thank you for being a friend of the channel and a dedicated diehard. Thank you, everyone who drops super chats. We'll come back around and review those, and I'll put a little comment on Discord that makes you feel all good inside. QC Man 2000 says, I assume drivers can see your rating and can choose not to pick you up if you have a bad rating. That seems plausible. Should we find out right now what my Lyft rating is? I literally don't even know. So we're going to have some transparency here. The Dugroz transparency segment of the day. What is my Lyft rating? How do you find it? I guess I click you in the bottom right-hand corner. And maybe I click view profile. Is that right? All right. So it says 13 rides and my rating is new with a little star next to it. 5.1 years. So I've been registered for 5 years, but I'm still listed as new. I wonder how many rides you have to take this no longer be new. I've had 13. So if anybody knows, fill us in. Let's move on to the next Dugroz Diet Hard. And I teased this at the very, very beginning of the video. Today's new segment, what did I eat this week? I'll have to come up with a better name than that. Somebody can help me out. I ate at Culver's. I already mentioned that. And even though they wouldn't let me do tap to pay, and I, for some reason, I was in that awkward phase where I transferred money out of my PayPal account and the new money hadn't come back in yet. I had to put it on my Freedom Flex, which wasn't that big of a deal, but I like butter burgers. That's a little too much of a zoom in. Cheese. I like butter burgers from Culver's, and there's one of them. And here's a picture of it cut in half. Sorry, it's actually chewed in half. But man, that just looks good. Isn't that juicy? Culver's is my favorite fast food cheeseburger or hamburger restaurant. So that's what it is. So today's featured food segment is nothing too fancy, just Culver's, originated in Wisconsin. QC Man says, my Lyft rating is 5. Not that I'm bragging. What was mine? I forget even what I said here just a few moments ago. It was new, whatever that means. Don Kim says hamburger, and Juan Garcia says Culver's is great. None in South Florida. Closest is Tampa and Orlando. Yeah, I knew they started in the Midwest. I don't know where they've spread to so far. So there's your Dugroz Eats of the Week. No Culver's near us. Drool, says Andrew. Glad you guys like my eating habits. Luke Johnson says you can transfer or pool a maximum of 500,000 points per year and receive a maximum of 2 million points per year via transfers and pooling combined. There was something where my dad was only able to transfer a certain number of Hilton points. I thought it was like, is there some other limit, or am I imagining it? Maybe my wife had 500,000 one year and I wanted to do more than that. I don't remember. RemGB says, don't forget to use the pay yourself back at 1.25 cents per point Aeroplan for the annual fees, as well as that works for beyond the 200,000 limit. So effectively, you can cash out approximately 208 points per year for the math nerds. Hey, thanks for the info. I appreciate that. That's good to keep in mind. I think I paid my wife's annual fee with just money. I wonder if I'm still in range to go back and do that. Time for one of my patent pending screenshots to help me remember things I want to do later. Thanks, Rem. Screenshot taken. New again. Dugroz, I can't take the suspense. I need that main event like a heavyweight fight just sitting through the undercards. That's the very next thing. Kid Cat's here. How you doing, Kid Cat? I'm still a 5-star on Lyft after 383 rides in 8 years. Wow. Most of that is the last 3. Okay, awesome. So somewhere between 13 and 383 is when you're no longer considered new. Don't know exactly where. We'll figure that out later. All right. It's time for the theme of the day. Theme of the day. Theme of the day. And that theme is my 5-card Endgame wallet setup. So let's just talk about it. What do I mean by 5-card Endgame wallet? So Endgame in the world of points and miles usually refers to getting to a point in life where you either can't open any new cards or it's more challenging to open new cards. You're not a rookie who's just like, let's apply for everything. So you have to be a little more content with gardening. You see the very high quality AI generated artwork there. I've got a tie on, I'm holding a gavel. So maybe this has something to do with lawmaking or judiciary or rulings of some kind. Let's find out. I'll pause just a quick moment here, and QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Report membership. Thank you so much, QC Man. Celebrate, celebrate. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. If anybody's online, they just got a free membership, speak up. Let us know. Matt Clausen says Butterburger is such a Wisconsin thing. It is. Wisconsin and Iowa touch, so they're friends. I like Wisconsin. Moving on here. All right, speaking of Matt Clausen, we need to get a little bit of credit where credit is due. So I've got some hat tips here. Stack Your Points is it's both a YouTube channel and a podcast. I showed a picture in the bottom left corner what it looks like. They did an episode on December 31st, 2024 called Matt is a Liar Liar Onesie on Fire. You can ask him about that creative title name that RJ came up with. And for those of you who don't know, that's a podcast that features RJ, Matt, Lonnie, and Tariq. And they talk about credit card stuff. So look that up on your favorite podcast platform or catch their YouTube channel. It looks like that. I haven't done it yet. I sincerely apologize. I was rushing so hard this morning. I will go back and put all the hat tips in either the description or a pinned comment. I just wrote it down. See? Hat tips pinned. And that particular episode, I'm a little behind schedule. I was catching up on. It caught my attention enough. I listened to all 2 hours plus of it, even though I just finished it recently. It was a question and answer, and one person that asked at least 5 questions was AP. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner what his avatar looks like if he's on, if you're on Discord. And if you're on board, AP, say hi. I know he's been a diehard at various points in the past, maybe still is, I'm not sure, but has definitely been a friend of both of our channels. And so he asked this question for that podcast, and the question was, what are your 5 endgame setups, no more than 5 cards? Excuse me. What are your endgame setups, no more than 5 cards? Asked by AP. So thank you to Stack Your Points. Thank you to AP for the inspiration to today's theme. So let's talk about this just a little bit more here. There's guidelines. Let's pretend there's a new law. That's why I'm holding a gavel. So the Congress of the United States got together, passed a law, the president signed it into force, and here's what it is. It says this law goes into effect on January 1st, 2027, a little less than 2 years from now. And the law is you can't have more than 5 credit cards. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren get together and put the smack down and say credit card companies are taking advantage of people, whether it's misguided or not. I'll leave that up to you. And say you can't have more than 5 credit cards. And we just have to eat that. We have to deal with it. If you don't get down to 5 by then, the government picks for you. And I'm sure there's some sort of Republican co-sponsor who feels the same way. Maybe it's Joni Ernst from right here in Iowa. And they get together, co-sponsor a bill, and it passes. And they create a new department of credit card smacking downing or something like that. And you've got a little less than 2 years to get down to 5 credit cards. If you don't, some bureaucrat's going to pick your 5-card setup for you. And they're probably only going to pick annual fee cards or something like that. So you don't want that to happen. You've got to get down to just 5 cards by the start of 2027. So you have to do any of your applications or whatever you need to do by December 31st of next year, 2026. A few more guidelines continued. The law says that this limit includes business cards. So no, you can't have 5 personal cards and 26 business cards. This is combined, all of that together. How do they do that legally? I don't know. We're pretending. Let's just roll with it, people. No, you can't create LLCs or S corps or anything to get around it. You can only have 5 credit cards, period. And you can't play upgrade, downgrade games. So you can't say, well, I'm going to open a Chase Sapphire Reserve, and then after the first year, I'm going to downgrade it to a CSP, and then back to a CSR, and then a Freedom Flex, and back to a CSR. You can't use the sledge trick and downgrade your Amex Platy down to a green, and then back up to a Platy and green, up. You can't go Aspire Hilton Honors. Once you're in, you're kind of stuck, and the reason why you're stuck is because you can only change 1 card every 2 years, and that includes both product changes and new applications. So every 2 years, you can do one or the other. I'm not going to get into that today, but the bottom line is you're not totally stuck, but you're just about stuck if you don't take care to do what you need to do. And we're going to assume, for the sake of argument, the features don't change. So like if there's a feature on a credit card now, like it gives priority pass lounge access for you and up to 2 guests, we're going to assume it's going to be the same after 2027. Obviously, new credit cards will come and go, but all we can do is play along with what we have right now. So here we go. Using my Adobe Spark, which I pay for, clip art, I found this picture of a young lady who's very excited to use her credit card. She's probably like, over here, I've got my everything else card, and here I've got my phone with mobile wallet for USBAR or something else that gives mobile wallet goodness. Before I get into the list, let's catch up on comments real quick. Why did AI give you a gavel? I asked it to. Good question. I'm the master of graphic design if the computer's doing it for me. Mike Newland gifted a Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. That's awesome. Thank you, Mike. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. And yeah. Kirby G says, time to storm the Capitol to protect our credit card points. Don't think I'll go into any detail on that comment. Matt said, I tend to wear a blanketed hoodie while recording. We record late in the night, and they tease me that I wear a onesie. I do not. I picked up on that. Thank you. In fact, the inspiration for the video came very late in the video. QC Man says, sure, Matt Clausen, sure. And Spathco says, thou doth protest too much. I'm 100% convinced it's a onesie now. Have you run across like stupid fashion advertisements where like, I don't even know what you call it, but like a literal onesie for girls? I don't know if it's popular right now, but maybe a year or 2 ago actually was. I'm talking like adult women. Looks silly if you ask me. New Again says, I used to date the chick in the pic. That's Aunt Connie's daughter. You did now. Okay. Well, hey, that's your story of fame. I dated the daughter of the man who invented the giant foam finger. And I'm not joking. If you look up the origin of the giant foam finger, there's a man from Ottumwa, Iowa named Steve Schmeeler. I'm totally serious. Andrew Beach says it's not a onesie, it's a snuggie or a comfy. That's what I was envisioning, a snuggie. All right, back to the main event. Let's keep going here. I need to change the sizing. There we go. So what am I going to pick for my 5 cards? Well, I'm going to start with the Wyndham Earner Business Credit Card, which is issued by Barclays. Why, Doug? Why are you going with that? That seems like an odd choice. Well, I'm going to tell you why. It gets 8x on gas, 8 Wyndham points per dollar on gas, and 5 Wyndham points per dollar on utilities, internet, cable, and phones. That's pretty good too. Not as good, but good. Here's my logic. Spathco will appreciate this. I'm looking for something, at least one of my 5 cards where I can reliably get outsized value, where if I take the earnings times the redemption, it's actually plausible to earn enough points in a year or 2 years or 3 years to have a redemption that is kind of mega and really appeals to me. And there is a niche that doesn't work for lots of people, but it fits me like a glove. And that niche is cottages or vacasas. Now, vacasa is for vacation rentals here in the United States. I don't know how long that's going to be around. Who knows? Maybe a long time. They're going through some merger with Casajo, and I think Frequent Miler said we're hoping they're going to call their new company Vacasa Cajo or something like that, or Vacajazo, something along those lines. But there's a companion company, or at least one that operates in a similar manner, called cottages.com in the United Kingdom. And I used this 2 years ago when we went to Europe. It was fantastic. And I'm going to be using it again when we go to the United Kingdom this coming summer. We're staying specifically in Wales. This is the seal of the country of Wales. The picture shown is not the exact cottage we're staying with, because I don't want to announce to the whole world exactly where we're going to be staying, because I know some of you guys are clearly stalkers and I don't want to get stalked. But it's very similar to this. The whole rolling fields, the kind of hedgerow fences, that kind of stuff. Lots of stone. Very cool. Chef's kiss. So this example is from cottages.com. These are my actual numbers that I'll be getting this summer. So pictures are simulated. Numbers are real. They actually sent me an email when I booked it saying, here's how much you paid. And then it says like minus Wyndham credit, and it credits the exact same dollar amount. 2,104 British pounds sterling, which translates to $2,713. By the way, where's Sam K from the United Kingdom? I haven't seen him in like 5 weeks. Come back, Sam. 2,700 US greenbacks, and it costs $13,500 per bedroom per night, and we're staying 3 nights. Now, normally Wyndham charges $15,000 per bedroom per night, but if you have any of the Wyndham credit cards, you get a 10% discount that's baked in, so that takes it down to the $13,500. So if we take that times the 4 nights my family's staying, and so basically you've got 13,000 times 3 times 4, that's 162,000 Wyndham points that I'm redeeming. And that comes out to, went too fast. That comes out to 1.67 cents per point, which is good. It's solid. Because there's a cap, I think the maximum you can get is like just under 2 cents per point. It might be 1.88, 1.98, something like that. If somebody wants to look it up and correct me, they can. The maximum you can do is a value of $300 per bedroom per night with cottages. That's slightly different than Vacasa, so don't freak out on me. 1.67 cents per point is very solid. And if I was asking myself, how much do I have to spend at gas stations to book this? That comes out to $20,250 on gas spending to book this. Now, in the example budget I'm going to say with some creative gift card buying and that kind of stuff, going to a gas station, getting my Amazon gift card there, getting my Taco Bell gift cards at a gas station, that kind of stuff. I think I would probably run about $10,000 of spend through gas stations per year. Only $2,000 to $4,000 of that's actual gas. The other is gift card buying, the occasional slice of Casey's breakfast pizza mixed in, that kind of thing. So in about 2 years, I could have enough through natural spending to book these 4 nights. So every other year, I'll get to take something like this. That's pretty epic. That's why the first slot in my Endgame 5-card wallet went to the Wyndham Earner Business Credit Card. Not for everyone, but I think it suits me perfectly. Where was I? Let's see. John R. says, smack the like button if you've not yet done so. Mike Newland says, 85 are watching, but only 33 likes. We can do better than that. Hit the like button. And I agree with that. 88's really good. I think the most concurrent viewers I've ever had at one time was like 95. So let's see if we can clear that. We've got some more talk about the onesie versus snuggie versus comfy. New Again says Steve was brilliant. Did he make a foam middle finger? No, it was the index finger. Matt says his snuggie is flannel and warm, so they can think what they want. Andrew lets them know that Matt, they're just jealous. What they're hoping is that you put it in the merch store. As it relates to cards, Ian says, I can't do 5, I need 6. Well, too bad. They passed a law, Ian. We got to roll with this. MR says, Seal of Wales. He did that on porpoise. 100 dad joke points to you, MR. Thank you so much. TH says, Wyndham Earner Business, USBAR, Aeroplan, Ink Preferred, Ink Cash. Is that what you want or what you're predicting for me? I have a feeling it's what you're predicting for me. Stay tuned. We'll find out. As it relates to the merch, Matt says, don't get Liz ideas. Merch later. Spaco says, we're all stalkers, stocking up on dem points. Andrew says, was there a rule that you could actually apply for the cards today? Well, the idea is the rule doesn't go into effect until January 1st of 2027. So you've got a year and 9 months to prepare your wallet. So yes, between now and then you can defo do that. Rem GB says, for Aeroplan, pay yourself back. It will work as long as it's within 90 days of annual fee posting. I checked the history. The transfer bonus is twice a year, December, January, and June, July. That's what it's been, and I'm hoping that keeps up. John R. says, Stalker series is one of the best games I've played. Love it. I don't know exactly what that's referencing, but I think Stalker has something to do with the Seal of Wales, which is also on the Welsh flag. Yeah, if anybody knows the Welsh word for Wales, I think it's like Sir Maigu, Cymr. There might be a Q in there somewhere. Let me know. There's also a Stalker Castle. In fact, isn't Stalker Castle the real name of the castle R at the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Oh, hey, Matt read my mind. Cymru. It's probably pronounced nothing like that. Let's see. Where were we? The theoretical law wouldn't affect 90% of people. Maybe if they own businesses might be an issue. But it would be Armageddon for us. Yeah, I don't know why they would pass this law. Let's not worry about that. Maybe it's misguided protection. RemG says, thank you, Mike Newland, for the channel membership. I love Dugroz Reports' channel. Awesome. Thank you for giving, Mike, and glad you spoke up when you received it, RemGB. Yuri G has arrived. How you doing? And let's see. MR says, I used to transfer all my Wyndham points to Aero Mexico. I should try the Vacasha option. Looks cool. TH was predicting for me. That's what I thought. Capital One Duo and City Trifecta. That would be a good option. Andrew says, thanks, Dugroz. That means you can't get the USBAR as part of your new setup under this new law. We're going to come back to that later, so hold that thought. New Again says, you will lose well more than half the value of your Wyndham points if you transfer to an airline. The ratios are terrible. I will note that he said he used to do that. I don't know if he still does. Got to blow my nose. Oh, hey, 95 people on board. We're about to break the record. If you just keep commenting and clicking thumbs up, we will. Next up. Have I been talking without anyone hearing me this whole time? Doggone it. I'm so sorry, guys. How about now? All right, let's do the rewind thing here. It's funny because, since I was using slides and basically just reading with some additional comments, you probably somebody should have dropped a $100 super chat to help me know that there's audio. But hey, I should intentionally do that at least once every live stream, because that means that I get ton of like comments, and more comments equal more people coming on board and that kind of stuff. So please use American Sign Language. No audio is coming through, says New again. You'll have to start at the top of the Venture X slide. I will do just that. Thank you, Andrew. Let's do that very thing. Why the Venture X from Capital One? Well, it does 2X on everything, and that's just a wonderful catch-all. You get good enough lounge access. It may not be quite as good as Centurion or Sapphire, but you get at least a priority pass. Because of the fact that your authorized user is free, they can also sign up for priority pass. And you have the 3 different Capital One lounges plus the landing or whatever they call it in Reagan. The credits pretty much cover the annual fee. I think you know what I mean by that. $400, you get $100 worth of points. You get $300 worth of coupons in the portal. And it's not great, but I can always find something in the portal that's, if not right at face value, very, very close. Usually that's a rental car for me. It has primary CDW, which is a big deal for me. I really like corn, but also I like to rent cars. So I need to have at least one card with that primary collision damage waiver. And you have the transfer partners. So there you go. Oh, yeah. And it's just easy. I like how easy Capital One Venture X is. So I think that's a good number 2 slot. And making sure I'm getting audio here and all that. Yes, I am. And let's move on. Card number 3. Or no, let's talk about the Venture X a little more. So over on the right, there's some features that are kind of good. Unlimited 10x miles on hotels and rental cars through the portal. And won't use that a lot, but I might use it occasionally. The times I've used it are like, let's say I'm traveling and I'm going to help out a family member. They're going to reimburse me for my hotel. I might use the portal to get 10 Capital One miles per dollar, something like that. I want to get that TSA PreCheck, and I'm going to get that every 5 years. Again, I like the fact that the lounge access is for myself and 2 guests, and you get no annual fee authorized user cards, so that more than covers my family of 4. Little more detail here. You have the free authorized users. That's a big deal. It fits well. You want to have at least one of those. Hertz President's Circle. You can probably get that elsewhere, but it's come in handy for me 3 or 4 times. The travel eraser if needed, and I don't think you can understate that enough. There's going to be times you're going to have that obscure travel, like what I often do with my Aeroplan, where I erase travel to make sure it's free. I'm still going to have my goal of trying to have my travel free. It'll be a lot harder. So if you can't use Aeroplan, here's an option. I'm going to take my asthma inhaler and I'm going to hit the mute button, and then I'm going to unmute after I'm done. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, someone will tell me if that's not the case. Number 3 is the Saver, also from Capital One. Why? Why a Saver, Doug? Just why? Because 3x on dining, 3x on groceries, 3x on entertainment. That's why this is going to be really simple, but simple can be good in some situations. Cesar said he would pair the Capital One Duo with the City Trifecta, and I'm doing the Capital One part of that. Spoiler alert, there's not going to be any City cards in here. I like it because it's both no annual fee, but it's also no foreign transaction fee. So if I'm overseas and I go to see a play, we might actually do that in Austria on our trip. There's like this place you can go to that's like in a restaurant, but they put in a play like simulating the life of, is it Strauss? One of those classical music composers from that area. And I don't know, is it going to code as a restaurant? Is it going to code as entertainment? Either way, I'm covered, and no foreign transaction fee. So we're good. Number 4. Well, actually, spoiler, not much of a spoiler, but spoiler. Let's catch up on comments here. I have quite a few to catch up on. All right. Truckloads of people told me they couldn't hear me. MR says, before Delta changed their program, I used the Aeromexico points to book domestic Delta flights and maintain Delta status. That made sense. Let's see what else we got going on. Sorry. He's so excited about the Venture X. It's true. Yuri G says, what's the new law? We're pretending, Yuri, so there's not a real new law, but let's pretend if there was a law that went into effect 2 years from now that you can only have a maximum of 5 credit cards. That's what we're pretending today. Okay, and John and Cesar and Mike. Oh, hey, how you doing, Mike Bynock? Don't think we have spoken today. MR all said I'm back on. Okay. Tim Williams said, plus you get 10 points annually on the Wyndham business. Excuse me, 10K. That's right. I forgot about that. Actually, I believe it's 15K. And I'll kind of sort of get to that later when I talk about annual fees. But yeah, it does pay for itself because I would value the 15 Wyndham points at least $100, probably more than that. So the annual fee more that pays for itself. All right, so if we're trying to pronounce Sirmu, the name of Wales, Matt says it's pronounced Kai, like the name Kai, and then M as in so Kaimru. Kaimru. Okay, thank you, Matt. Hopefully I did it well. I'll have to remember that. I'll say it, and then someone will talk to me in Welsh and assume that I know the language. Yuri G says, I don't really use the Venture X because I have better options. I only use it to go to Capital Lounges at Dallas Fort Worth, where I usually have layovers. Corn. Yeah. For me, also 5X on airlines. That's with the Venture X. I doubt I'd be getting a lot of airlines in the portal, but maybe. Maybe by 2027, Capital One will let you get the Venture X again. They'll actually let me upgrade my oldest credit card to the Venture X right now, but I'm going to wait till a little later in the year to do it because that's what will fit me better. What they won't let me upgrade or downgrade to is the Saver, unfortunately. I think it has to do with the whole MasterCard versus Visa. Both of my Capital One cards are Visas. Rem says the ability to add free authorized users each with their own priority pass is huge, especially with the limit of 2 guests per PP or Chase Lounge visit of 1 PP per year. Yeah, that's totally true. That's one of the main things. The Ritz has free AUs and unlimited guests. I thought about the Ritz, but in this context where I can only pick 5, I just felt like I'd rather go with the Venture X. Yuri says, I also have the Saver, but I stopped using it since the 3X multiplier is too low. I now use PayPal debit and future debit for groceries, 5% on both. Interesting. Future debit. I'm shocked that the Venture X Duo over the USBAR, or I guess in addition to. Well, you're about to find out on that one. Tell me more about the Strauss Play dinner, please. What city and country is it in? Vienna, Austria? And that's all I know. It's in Vienna, Austria. When we get to like August, remind me and I'll tell you how it went. I don't know that we're going to do that, but my wife likes classical music and I like food. So eat food, listen to classical music. I like some classical music too. Yuri says this is related to Wyndham. It is 15K and you get the points discount. Thank you. 90 people on board. Keep smashing like. Please keep dropping super chats. Please keep dropping comments. All these things help. For those of you watching after the fact, any comment down below, no matter how minor it seems, you could put good work on YouTube. There's a lady named Vicky who writes good work on YouTube or good job on YouTube on lots of my videos, and I really appreciate that. You can just put cheeseburger if you want down in the comment section. Anything helps. Let's keep going here. Kind of gave it away. Number 4, the Altitude Reserve from US Bank. Now, I already signed up for this before it became a grandfathered card, so I can keep it. That's what I'm saying in this hypothetical scenario. Why the Altitude Reserve? Well, it gets 3X on mobile wallet, and I've talked about this many times before. I'll try not to over belabor it, but I just love it so much. It also gets 3X on travel, and that's all travel, basically, even directly with the airline, hotel, like I was going to say I used it on buses in London and Coda, but I actually did tap to pay, so I can't confirm that 100%. I know it works on rental cars. Has anybody used your altitude reserve on transit-y type things like taxis, Ubers, buses, subways, not with tap to pay, but with the actual physical card? Did you get 3X? Let me know. It gives 1.5 boost on real-time rewards. So 3 times 1.5 becomes 4.5% cash back equivalent on anything you tap to pay with, because I'm always going to use real-time rewards. And for those of you who aren't familiar, basically that's a way you can use text messages to erase travel charges on the altitude reserve. It gives you 8 priority pass restaurant visits per year. So that pairs really well with your Venture X. In fact, Josh Giebel did a video once about the altitude reserve and Venture X combo and how they work so well together. I would basically do all my priority pass lounges on the Venture X because they're unlimited and save my priority passes on the reserve just for those restaurants. And I know some people have said, well, I hardly ever see a priority pass restaurant. That's true. I used one in Washington, D.C. that went away. I don't know if it came back or not. And I used it once and just to clarify, the one in Washington, D.C., I used 4 visits for my family on the way there, 4 on the way back. So we really took advantage of it and got like probably $160 to $180 worth of free food. And then one time in St. Louis, they have what's their hockey team? The Blues, a Blues themed restaurant there. And this is perfect for car rentals. That's almost, not quite, but almost exclusively what I redeem it for nowadays. Oop. Again, I gave the lead away. Let's catch up on comments. Where were we? Right here. QC Man likes hamburgers. The Jordan Rules for Credit likes hamburgers. Hey, I just ran across your channel recently, Jordan. Great work on YouTube. Thank you. And Luke John says, I like cheeseburgers too. Oh, that's because I said if you don't know what to comment, just write cheeseburger. I'm remembering now. It's all coming together. Yuri G says, yes, I used it on transit. We're talking about the altitude reserve here. And I got 3X most of the time. It depends on how the transit codes. Chris Sevi says, I used the USBAR for Lyft. It coded 3X and triggered real-time rewards. Well, duh, I should have known that. Frequent Miler frequently talks about using the USBAR with Lyft or Uber and using it for that. I know Stan the Credit Frog has said that. RemGB says the travel category for the USBAR is very restrictive in my experience. Airbnb and similar are not treated as travel. I knew that. Don't try to use it. Don't try to use real-time rewards for Airbnb. Only credit card other than Bank of America Premium Elite that has restaurant access. I love it. I believe there's some really obscure card by some other obscure issuer that also has Party Pass lounge access, but I don't remember which one it was. And I think if you have the grandfathered City Prestige, I think you can get it. Correct me if I'm wrong. QC Man says I use it on Lyft, not as Apple Pay, but as a payment method, and it's just as good as in person. I get 3X on travel. Spathco gets 3X punching in my number on car services booked online. Yes, I do too for rental cars. I don't know if you use like Turo, how that would work out. Uber and Lyft code as travel, an easy way to redeem, says RemGB. Aeroplan might not make my top 5. Well, hang in there and find out. For some countries, U.S. Bank excludes them. Israel, Jamaica, Ireland, and Northern Ireland. I remember that, Yuri. Thank you. And that stinks because I really want to go to Belfast, Northern Ireland sometime. There's a YouTuber I like who is based out of Northern Ireland. She's a young lady. Her name escapes me right now. If I think of it, I'll give her a hat tip too. Who sings traditional Irish songs based on Northern Ireland and has inspired me to want to go to the castle in Belfast, but I can't rent a car. Belfast. I'm writing that down. Yuri G says, yes, travel agencies don't count on the AR. City Prestige has the restaurant access. It's like we're best friends or something. Stan says HSBC has a card that's supposed to have a Party Pass airport restaurant access. That's one of the ones I'm thinking of. There might be some other bank that's obscure that starts with a C, not City, not Chase. Can't remember what it is. The Jordan Rules for Credit say, thank you, sir. Anyone else have fear of missing out the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve? You should. because it's a great card. And as Matt Colossus pointed out, US Bank tends to grandfather its cards forever. 91 people on board. We're so close to getting that 96 record. New Again says, but you earn 3x on Airbnb with USBAR if that matters. So you earn 3x, but you can't use real-time rewards. Go figure. Stan says, other than that, PR Elite is the only one with unlimited PP access right now. I don't know what PR Elite is. PR. Puerto Rico? Cesar. That you can apply for. QCM says, I'm pretty sure the otherwise crappy luxury cards have restaurants in their priority pass, as does the crappy JetBlue premium card. Interesting. And you're right. The luxury cards, the luxury black card, it's so thick. That alone makes it worth paying $400. You don't earn 3x on Airbnb with AR. We're getting conflicting data points here. Bank of America Premium Elite, not Puerto Rico. Okay. Chris says, a U.S. Bank statement credit is better than a Venture X. Pay yourself back. No. Yes, it is, because it's at 1.5 rather than 1. RemGB says, I beg to differ. Airbnb a couple years back did not code as travel, forget real-time rewards, so I only got 1x. Well, I'm just going to have to say, be the data point you want to be. Your mileage may vary and all that kind of stuff. All right. 93. Number 5, the US Bank Cash Plus. I sat there last night and debated this forever, because once I have these 4 cards, sort of like, there's a lot of good cards out there, but they're only good in concert with other things. So I'm like, I'm just going to add a really, really high quality cashback card here. Why? Well, because it has 2x on 2 categories that I choose every quarter, and I almost always choose utilities and gyms, like fitness centers, because our family has like a $90 a month subscription to a local fitness center that we use. And then, of course, everyone pays utilities. So that's that. So here is the, excuse me, little burp snuck out there. Here's the overall picture of what I have going on with this 5-card endgame setup. And I think I would be perfectly happy with this, but we need to think about it. And then I'm going to introduce a challenge. I'm going to introduce some competition. It's sort of like when you're making brackets for the NCAA tournament. It's like, this is my official bracket, but I also have a backup bracket that I do just for fun. So this is my official bracket, but I'm going to present a second wallet. So we have 8x Wyndham on gas. We have 3x based on the Capital One duo on dining, entertainment, and groceries. Of course, we're going to do the spend here, move it over to here if we want to use points, or if we just want to use cash back, leave it right there. We have 4.5% cashback wallet on mobile wallet for lots of things. That's where the Altitude Reserve comes in. And then we have 5% cash back on utilities and gyms. Now, this is going to be a little confusing because I told you earlier that you can get 6x utilities on Wyndham. In the calculations you're going to see, I put my utilities here in the Cash Plus because I think I would generally rather have the flexibility of 5% cash than 6% Wyndham. Not always, but most of the time. And I would probably go back and forth. I've done that in real life, even without this fanciful law, where sometimes I put my utilities on the Wyndham card, sometimes I put it on the Cash Plus card, depending on what I need at that moment. Like right now, I need cash way more than Wyndham points. I've already booked that cottage over in Wales. So right now, I need cash to fund the trip. But sometimes it's the other way around. Back around third quarter of last year, I was putting all my utilities on the Wyndham card. I need to talk about my point valuations because until you know how much your points are worth, you can't really come up with what you have. I value Wyndham at 1.25 cents per point. I think that's pretty conservative because I'm getting 1.67 this summer. All of my Vicasas have been right around there, if not better. One of them was a lot better. Before they put that 250, 500 cap, you could get way more value. But anyhow, yeah, I think that's a reasonable yet conservative estimate for my use case. Capital One, I value at 1.5 cents per point. And here's my thought. I'm going to be using some as the travel eraser over on the Venture X. I'm going to be using some at Transfer Partners, which are going to be 2, 3, 4. cents per point. Occasionally, I'll pull off a big one like the Aeroplan redemption I did going into this summer where I'm getting 10 to 12 cents per point. So yes, I'm being very conservative, but I value Capital One points right around 1.5 cents per point. Therefore, gas on the Wyndham is going to be a 10% cashback equivalent. If you see me list CBE, that's cashback equivalent, or the equivalent of what it would cost me if I paid in cash. It's time to transition to a standing desk here because my back is hurting. Thanks for bearing with me. So gas is a 10% cashback equivalent. Telecom, which would be your phone, internet, cable, streaming services, that kind of stuff. Well, not streaming, but phone, internet, cable at 6.25% cashback equivalent. I accidentally forgot the cashback symbol. Excuse me, I forgot the cash symbol. Everybody still able to hear me okay since I'm standing now, hopefully. Let me know if you're not. And Saver, all the stuff over on the Saver, the entertainment, the dining, the groceries is going to be 4.5% cashback equivalent. Everything else is 3% cashback equivalent. And that's when you take your Venture X 2X times 1.5, you're going to get 3%. All right, I'll pause here and catch up on some comments. Oh, we had a lot of comments here. Man, a lot. Wow, what in the world? Here we are. Okay, Spaithco, City National Bank Visa Infinite is another obscure card with restaurant access. That's the one I was thinking of, starts with a C. The card is a shell of its former self, not worth it anymore. I understand. Airbnb now codes as travel agencies and tour operators. Maybe they changed. Airbnb accepts Apple Pay on iOS and Macs, and you can get 3x. That is a good thought process. In fact, I could buy some Airbnb gift cards right now in order to help get my spend up on my USBAR, and I just have to take some cash out of my travel savings account to cover that. Lemons and Travel is the name of this individual. How you doing, Lemons and Travel? Don't think we've met before, but I'm super happy to see you on board. 96 people on board. 96 people on board. Record broken. Record broken. Time for a screenshot quickly before it goes away. I think I got it. Today's a big day in the history of Points and Miles. 97. Yuri G said, I tested Airbnb recently on the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey and got 3x. City Prestige, 5x. Rodrigo says, what about Hyatt? I don't know if you're talking about earnings or like within the setup. I'll get to that. Hang in there. Airbnb accepts Apple Pay. All right. Somebody else mentioned that. So how does this Endgame enhance your travel goals? I'll kind of sort of get to that. Premium Rewards, their top travel card. All right. I'm going to stop showing the comments about what Airbnb codes as. It's a great discussion. I just got to move on for the sake of time. So feel free to keep having it over on the side. Hyatt card. Tim Williams says, if US Bank ever unlocks the ability to transfer points from Cash Plus to the USBR, wow. Oh, yeah, it would become the ultimate setup if that happened. K-Man is here, 2324. The nice thing about the Capital One Duo is saver points can be transferred to transfer partners because of the Venture X. Average 1.85x cents per point on Capital One points turns 3x into 5.55. Is that your personal average, or are you thinking somebody else used that as a rule of thumb? Matt says, a modular pay what you want card would be so great in this community. QCMN says, for churners, it'd end up being a 2 to 3 card setup with 2 to 3 cards for subs. I'm not sure what you're referencing with that comment. I'm playing so much catch up. So if you want to fill me in, you can, but don't feel obligated to. RemGB says, I have 4 of these cards except for the Saver one. 3X does excite probably me much, to be honest, especially more recently after I got the US. Oh, it's probably doesn't. 3X doesn't excite me much anymore, especially after I got the US Bank Smartly. Well, let's all hang in there and see what happens with the Smartly on that front. Yuri G, that's known. Okay, I'm gonna let that go. 3X and Apple Pay is incredibly strong. Ian saw 97. Yuri and QC Man all saw 97. It's on there right now. Flying Squirrel says, I don't think the Altitude Connect was mentioned yet. I believe it has 4 passes per year that include restaurants and no annual fee. That is true. Good job, Flying Squirrels. Mike Newland says he briefly saw 99. I'll see when the report comes out. We're going for a 3-digit watch party, people. Do you think it'll happen? I don't know. I think Shake Shack was modeled on Culver's. Hello, Gentleman Explorer. Don't think we've had the chance to speak. I'm glad to see you on board. And I've only eaten at Shake Shack like once ever. I think that was out in Las Vegas when a bunch of us were wanting to use our Amex Gold credits, and they don't even give a credit on Shake Shack anymore, do they? All right, so let's go back to kind of my valuation and summary here. But first, we need to talk about what works with mobile wallet, because that's a huge part of this setup. Here are some examples that I have come up with, and there's definitely more. Pharmacies, both like Walgreens and my local privately owned pharmacy take tap to pay. Medical bills, some, not all. So I've had some medical bills where if I'm logging in on my Mac and my MacBook and I'm using Safari, it'll let me do Apple Wallet, which codes as mobile wallet. Mobile wallet codes as mobile wallet. Genius, Doug. Ace Hardware, just went there to buy some pre-emergent crabgrass control. If you're in Central Iowa and you haven't put that down yet, now's the time. Ace Hardware takes tap to pay. Menards used to not take it, but they do now. So I think definitely Menards and Ace Hardware. I don't know if Home Depot takes tap to pay or not. Insurance payments, some, not all. I know here's an example at the bottom of the screen down here. So that's a picture of me using Apple Pay just yesterday to pay the State Farm insurance bill. So my monthly insurance premium used to be around $265 a month, and I do not escrow insurance payments with my homeowner's insurance because I want to get points on it. So that includes the homeowner's insurance broken down by month, and it includes 2 cars. It was like $265, $270 a month. And then I had 2 teenagers get driver's licenses at the same time. And it went up to like $430 a month. And then they took this like safe driving virtual class that brought it down to $408 a month. So yikes, teenagers are expensive. But at least I get to use tap to pay and get my altitude reserve points on it. Concession stands, like if you go to a Iowa State Cyclone football game and want to buy some concession, just use tap to pay. Now you'll notice I'm not listing here the really obvious stuff like gas, groceries, fast food places, because a lot of those they at least could go on something else and get the same 3x. And there's many others as well. There was a national park we went to. We went to the Grand Canyon National Park, and they took tap to pay both in their gift shop and for admission. So that's just some examples. So somebody asked earlier, like, what's my use case? I'm going to go over a plausible budget here. I kind of made this up, but I made it up based on reality. I need to sit down and do like a super careful budget. This is probably right kind of budget. I haven't done a breakdown in 3 or 4 years. I've just kind of taken what it was 3 or 4 years ago and applied inflation rates to it. But if this isn't exactly right, it's pretty close. Let me check comments before I go over the plausible budget here. The 5-card setup rule would be only 2 to 3 cards in a real setup with 2 to 3 dedicated churning for a churner. Yeah, I don't know if you were on board when I said hypothetically in this scenario, you can only get a new card once every other year. So there's not going to be a lot of churning going on. Rex Blind has arrived. Hey, Dugroz. Hey, how you doing? I pronounced my own channel name wrong. Hey, Dugroz. K-Man saw 99 as well. Awesome. Yuri G says, I like Samsung Pay more than other mobile wallets since it works everywhere. Interesting. Ian asks, what kind of grass do you grow? I've got PRG, Zoysia, and a blend. I have 2 different varieties in my yard, and it kind of ticks me off. I'm not really sure, Ian. I apologize. I think Zoysia grass is the one I don't like. Is that the kind where it doesn't come in? It stays brown until like 3 or 4 weeks after everything else? I wish I could get by with just one. The main reason US Bank may not bring back USBAR is how widespread mobile wallets have become since the card started, as well as mobile wallet being available for a lot of online spending, especially Apple Pay. Most foreign countries accept mobile wallet for everything. So when I travel overseas, I get 4.5% on the US bar and no foreign transaction fee. Don't forget, mobile wallet is more secure than a physical card. Walmart does not accept mobile wallet. Yeah, Walmart's going to come up here in just a few seconds. For large stores, only Walmart and Home Depot don't have FNC, but Samsung Pay works there via the magnetic stripe. How long before that goes away? The hold it up to the stripey thing and it kind of fakes it. We'll see. Plausible budget. So first we start with mobile wallet, not including all other. So what I've done here is I've kind of thought about what are things that I can use mobile wallet on. Well, I've got $400 times 12. That's $4,800 right there just to pay for my auto and home insurance. And then other stuff, I'm thinking probably mobile wallet would be around $11,000 a year, and that's 4.5% cashback equivalent, which is $495. Dining, I'm shooting for $5,000 per year, and we're going to say that's 4.5% cashback. That's $225. Amazon, we spend around $4,000 a year, I believe, and that's 3% cashback equivalent because I don't have any sort of dedicated Amazon card. I'm just using my Venture X at the 1.5. That's $120. Gas, $10,000. Now that might seem like, whoa, how much you spent on gas, Doug? I'm doing some funny business here by buying gift cards. Like I said, I'm going to buy my Taco Bell gift card. I'm going to buy my Amazon gift card. I'm going to buy some Visa and MasterCards and then use that to pay for some other stuff. For example, my giving to my church, that's how I do it. I'll either get it at a gas station or a 5X category, my Freedom Flex, and then use that gift card to pay my church. So I'm basically getting 5% cash back on my tithing. So I've taken that into account because I subtracted some 10,000 from everything else, which is why everything else is going to look kind of small a little bit. Because that's all going to be Wyndham at the 8X times 1.5. That's a 10% CBE. That's $1,000. Walmart, likewise, we spend $10,000 a year at Walmart. That's mainly where we shop. And that's not just food, but that's food, toiletries, printer paper, over-the-counter medication, randomly needing new sheets for our bed. We spend a ton of money at Walmart because you can't use mobile wallet there, as someone just pointed out recently. It's only going to be the 3% cashback equivalent. That's $300. Groceries. Now, these are real grocery stores like Fairway, Hy-Vee, Ralph's, that kind of stuff. Much smaller. We do a little bit at Aldi, a little bit at Hy-Vee, a very little bit at Fairway. But we can still use the tap to pay there, and that's 4.5X. Or you could also, as an alternative, do your Capital One Saver, which is 3X times 1.5. Either way, 4.5% cashback equivalent. That's $90. Telecom, that's $2,000 a year roughly for cable, internet, phone. 6.25%, that's using that Wyndham, $125. Everything else, now, like I said, everything else seems kind of small because I'm doing funny business with gift cards and wherever possible, mobile wallet. But looking at my spending, I think that's probably realistic. And this is going to be 3% cashback equivalent on $8,000. That's $240. And then utilities, we got the $4,000 worth of utilities. That's going on my Cash Plus card, 5%. That's $200. As is gyms, roughly $1,000 a year, 5%. That's $50. And if you're wondering what that all comes out to, that is a total of $57,000 in spend. Now, when I said $57,000, my wife and my sister and I were all just talking recently about how that just seems ludicrous because that's not even including the mortgage. Like back when I was in college, it was like, try to find a job where you make at least $30,000 a year. So if you were a family of two and you both worked full time, that'd be $60,000. Obviously, inflation's gone up. And I don't think normal people would be able to run $57,000 a year through credit cards, but I think if you're a maximizer like us, you probably would be able to. The total cashback equivalent is $2,845. That comes out to a cashback equivalent on the aggregate of 4.99%. So just a little under 5%. Some things you're only getting 3%, some you're getting 4.5%, some you're getting 6%. Obviously, the Wyndham brings that average way up, which is how we get to the 4.99. I better take a moment to catch up on comments here. We already talked about that. I thought Home Depot started taking mobile wallet. Not that I know of. How do you manage all these gift cards that you buy? As I fear if I buy a lot, I am bound to not be able to manage all of them and miss out on some of those. Generally, I use them right away or very promptly. Obviously, if you get like, my favorite are things like Airbnb, where you just load it into your Airbnb right away. You don't have to keep a physical card around. Amazon, you just load it in your Amazon account right away. You don't have to keep a physical card. Obviously, like Taco Bell, I don't know. Can you go on the Taco Bell app and load gift cards? I'm not sure. That kind of thing. RemGB, why don't you use PayPal debit at Walmart to earn 5%? That'll cover your $10,000 yearly spend. For the sake of this exercise, I decided only to include credit cards and not include debit cards. I probably will someday, though, in real life. So thank you for the suggestion. Now, obviously, isn't it $1,000 a month? There could be a month here and there where we go over. So I'd have to track spending somewhat carefully. Let's move on. Now, I think there's a mistake either on the next screen or one of the next screens. It was like 11:45 p.m. by the time I got here. We're going to talk about drawbacks. There it is. When I wrote it down, I said no groceries, which is a minor drawback, but that's not right. The saver is grocery, dining, and entertainment. So what was I thinking? Like I said, it was late at night. I had a brain fart. So let's just all mentally cross that off the list. Let's just do it right now. There we go. Drawbacks. Well, we've got a random blank bullet point. And then in terms of other drawbacks to this setup, the Capital One transfer partners are weak. And I know this is a little bit of a matter of opinion, but what I mean by that is it's the fourth best in my opinion. So I would say you've got Chase and Amex. You can debate 1 and 2, but definitely Chase and Amex are 1 and 2, or Amex and Chase. I would put Citi in third place and then Capital One in fourth place. Honestly, Wells Fargo is not even that far behind them. Wells Fargo is only behind them just because they don't have very many. So one drawback to this setup is that your transfer partners are okay, but not terrific. There's not a good hotel option other than Wyndham itself and the occasional transfer bonus. So Venture X does transfer to Wyndham, which I wouldn't do unless there's like a 20 or 30% bonus, which is kind of okay. But there's just no great hotel option. And what I mainly mean by that is there's no Marriott, Hyatt, or Hilton. And we all know those are kind of the big three for hotels that you could define them as luxury, or could just say, you're always going to get a pretty good product. And it's kind of a bummer that you don't have any of those options with that setup. So that is definitely a weakness to this setup. Somebody earlier said, what about Hyatt? Yeah, you don't have Hyatt here. So this may not be terrific and great. And there's no domestic airline, at least no direct domestic airlines. Now, having said that, you can do some backdoor domestic airlines. Like you can use British Airways to book American. You can use Air Canada to book United. I might do that a little bit, but I'm not going to do it a ton in this setup. This is kind of like a cashback setup with a little bit of points and miles stacked on top of it. Where were we? What are the best places to get Airbnb gift cards? I believe pharmacies like Walgreens have them. CVS has them. I just saw it at Fairway recently, which is a grocery store. So lots of local grocery stores. Some gas stations do, some don't. New Again says, according to the hat budget slid, once again confirmed, USBAR goated. Luke is going to have a conniption fit with this video, Doug. I don't know what a hat budget slid is. Oh, okay. According to that budget slide, I see what you're saying. Uncle Luke is anti-USBR. I think it's a matter of sour grapes for him. He and Stan the Credit Stan the Credit Frog did a whole video on that where they debated it. And I think what Luke's point is why not just get a whole bunch of 5X credit cards that obscure credit unions and manage a portfolio of 5x credit cards. That's what he says, which obviously in this scenario doesn't work. Stan's point is, I would rather have one card at 4.5% than 10 cards at 5x. Yuri says, I would actually put Wells Fargo over Capital One. You might, just because of that 1-2 city. Also says his velocity would never have allowed him to get the USBAR. He keeps berating me and Stan. He doesn't berate us. He just has friendly arguments. Avianca can take you over to United. Sorry for typos. I'm eating. I do like eats, as we pointed out. So no judgment there. Next slide, please. Here's just an emphasis of the drawback. I use the award.travel/TPM matrix to pull this up. Here's the hotel partners with Capital One, and it's the blue column on the far right. Choice is 1-1, which is not good considering you go over to Citi or Wells Fargo at 1-2. Wyndham at 1-1 can be okay, but I would only do it if there's a transfer bonus. And I don't even know anything about a core live limitless. It's never really come up for me. So yeah, you can just see the weakness of not having hotel partners there. So now we're going to break out the second bracket and have a little bit of a challenge here. What's this old man doing? Well, here's the question. Somebody asked this earlier. Can you get the US Bank Altitude Reserve in this scenario? What if the government law says grandfathered cards aren't allowed? Here's a grandfather looking at his mobile wallet undoubtedly and wondering why the US Bank Altitude Reserve disappeared. So let's just have a scenario where I can't use the Altitude Reserve for a couple reasons. One is maybe US Bank nixes it all together. Maybe you're somebody else who only wants cards that you can still get for the sake of this scenario. Let's just head down the path. So here's my second wallet. I'm not going to go through each one individually. I'm just going to kind of show it to you here. And here it is. I call this the Chase Heavy wallet. We still have the Wyndham rewards card, the earner business card, same as before. I just really feel like a single card solution that can get you outstanding value once in a while. I really want that in my wallet. The Sapphire Reserve is the card that I'm going to use for lounge access and transfer partners for the most part. Now, the hard thing is Chase is only good if you have some of the minion cards to feed into it. So Sapphire Reserve is like GRU, the Freedom Flex, and the Business Cash are the minions. So what I did was I went with the cards that can get you 5x. I realized I could have added the Freedom Unlimited with 1.5, but I decided I'd rather do this. So we know the Business Cash gives 5x on telecom, office supply stores, those kinds of things. We know the Freedom Flex gives rotating categories and those kind of things. So that's pretty good, and I'll get into details on that in just a few moments. All right, I'm sorry, I have the Messenger app open on my phone, and I've seen like 30 messages between my sister and my wife, so I'm going to close that so I don't keep getting distracted. So what I did instead of the Freedom Unlimited is I added a no annual fee Amex card, the Blue Business Plus, as my fifth card. So that's going to be my everything else card in this scenario for a couple reasons. One is, although I can mostly get by with Chase, there are times now and then that I really want to have some Amex points when they're super valuable. And part of that's just, oh my word, my texts keep showing. I don't know how to make it not show. Mark is red. I don't know. Just go away, text messages. Let's move to this setup over here. Sorry, folks. Could you please stop texting on this channel, ? Until my live stream is done, ? It keeps showing up and everybody is hearing me and seeing me get distracted, period. Just do a chat with the two of you together, period. That's some quality live programming there. So I'm calling this the Chase Heavy setup. Let me make sure that, yep, everybody can still see me. Here are some bullet points kind of saying what it's all about. I still have Wyndham's high upside. I've got 5x earnings on the rotating categories, office supply, and telecom. And I've got lots of options to play with the 5X gift card game with points, not just cash back. In my first wallet, a whole lot of the 5X was not with points. It was on the USBAR getting the 4.5%. And I'm always going to get 3X on dining, pharmacy, and all travel. I had dining before with the the Saver card. Now we're moving that over to one of these two and getting 3X Chase on dining. Flex will get me pharmacy, and the Sapphire Reserve will give me all travel. I didn't factor paid travel into my budget, even though technically I use it like while traveling, but other than while traveling, I don't really think of as paid travel as something that's a big enough part of my budget, because I always try to make it free to be a big deal, but it can factor in now and then. I'll pause for some comments here. Where are we? We're talking about how Uncle Luke just absolutely loves the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve. Lemons and Travel says the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, the Smartly, the Cash Plus, Wyndham with your numbers here would get you 3,030 with one card to spare. Oh, wow, you're good at doing math quickly, Lemons and Travel. Awesome. I don't have enough assets to get the Smartly at the 4% level. I could only get it up to the 2.5% level right now. Dugroz is definitely an ITA matrix search guy. I don't know what ITA matrix search is. Is that the thing where you know how a card's going to code? I think that's what it is. Rodrigo says, do you actually transfer to Marriott or Hilton, though, with Chase or Amex? I've never transferred to Marriott. I am willing to transfer to Hilton when there is a pretty good transfer bonus. Like when they had a 20% transfer bonus not too long ago, I just needed to top off some Wyndham points. It was like 12,000. So I transferred over. If it's a 30% bonus or more, I'm willing to do it. Now, I know some people will say, but Doug, that's the equivalent of cashing out your Amex points at 1.3 cents per point. I'm willing to cash out at 1.3 cents per point. That's really not like utterly terrible, although I don't want to do it a lot. And I could also just, get cash back and buy those points for the most part. Yuri says, use Ink Preferred, ditch the Freedom Flex, get the Ritz. No. Michael's here and says, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, Michael. Glad to see you. I don't follow the Blue Business Plus instead of the USBAR. How much spend ends up falling to both catch-all and non-mobile wallet? Well, remember I said in this hypothetical scenario, I'm trying to appeal to someone who either can't get the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve or for some reason won't get the Altitude Reserve. Yuri responding with Lemons and Travel says, I would ditch the Cash Plus because Wyndham also gives 5X on utilities. That's a good point. RemGB said 98 we're watching at one point. That's great. Ian says the IT Matrix is software that Google bought to make Google Flights, and it's how Google Flights still works. But if you need to go to the IT Matrix website, there's still a lot more nerdy tools and filters. Oh, I didn't even know that. So you said I'm that kind of guy, but I've never actually done it. Chase said Heavy Step gives some relief for hotels since you'll now have Hyatt available on points too, says Mike Bynock. Good point, Mike, and you read my mind. I'm about to get to that. Oh, I forgot to mention there is the DoorDash and Lyft credits. The Lyft credits we discussed at the beginning of the episode, and I discussed DoorDash last week. I'm not going to take that into consideration, but it's there. You still have Priority Pass. You just swap your Sapphire lounges for your Capital One lounges. Which one's better? 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other. I don't know what you want. I would have to get a authorized user card in the Sapphire Reserve in this setup, and I do take that into consideration when we get to annual fees. It's time to sit down. So my feet were hurting before, now my knees are hurting. All right, so let's talk just a little more about this. I would still have the primary collision damage waiver, which is important to me in this setup. And I would have access to the 1.5 Chase portal. So since I don't have the 1.5 real-time rewards, I would have to use the travel portal instead, which I know is more limited, but at least you've got something. Let me see how the camera's showing. Oh, perfectly cromulent. Let me bigginize this slightly here. You would get 2X everywhere with Amex versus Capital One. I would argue that's probably a little better because Amex definitely has better travel partners than Capital One does. Much better transfer partners is what I said at midnight last night. Not just a little bit better, much better transfer partners. You have good overlap with Amex and Chase partners. So Amex and Chase together, their partners overlap well, and with the unique ones, they work together pretty well, actually, too. I need to give a hat tip here to Travel Cards. There is a YouTube content creator who made some banger videos for a little while and then stopped putting them out. I'm not sure why he stopped. I think just life got busy. And the name of the channel is Travel Cards. And it was the first video I saw that really did a good job of thinking about how cards overlap. The example shown on the screen is taken from one of his videos. I will link that down below in my list of hat tips. If I forget, please call me out on that. This one is just Amex, Capital One, and Citi, but you could do the same idea with Chase. So let's work on those ideas here. The last card got a little cut off on my graphic, but that's not a big deal. Here's the overlap where Chase and Amex have the same transfer partner that would suit me well. I'm not doing all of them, but the ones that I think would be good for what I'm doing. Aeroplan, of course, if you're looking for your great big Lufthansa trips, those kind of things, that'd be a great choice. By the way, someone might have asked earlier why I didn't use the Aeroplan card in this scenario. I feel like the Aeroplan card only works well if you're heavily invested in the Chase ecosystem, like you've got 11 different Chase cards. You don't have to have 11, but you have to have a lot of spend going through Chase cards or a lot of sign-up bonuses. While I do have some here, I don't have a truckload, and I didn't feel like I'm going to get enough value by moving it over to the Aeroplan card with my limited 5 cards and having to take something out versus just using the portal when applicable. Flying Blue. Now, obviously, there's some questions about like Flying Blue and their award availability business class to Europe lately, and that kind of stinks. Flying Blue does have really good options for repositioning flights within Europe. Virgin, which sometimes is great, sometimes is terrible, but I found a pretty good deal on premium economy. So it's like 13 cents per point or something like that. So it can be really good. British Airways, or really any Avios, because once you have an Avios, you can move them around within Avios. Some good use cases, not as good as it used to be with like British for American, but still there are situations where it's excellent. And then Marriott, I've never transferred to Marriott, but at least it's good to know that it's an option. And then if we think about quality non-overlaps, this is where Amex and Chase don't overlap, but it's real good quality partners. You've got United over on Chase, which I've used a few times for good value, but at least it's solid value. Etihad, I've never used, but I've seen some good options for using Etihad to book American Airlines over on Amex. That could be a good one. Southwest, with all the changes recently, who knows? But I like to at least keep the option open. I think they're going to go dynamic, so you're probably going to find some really good options and some really bad options. But cherry picking, there might be some good options. So I at least like leaving it on the table. And then Hyatt. Now, I've got Hyatt underlined because that's the huge one. By adding in a Chase setup that you can actually earn a lot of points. Those of you who saw my live stream or my video about the budget hotel showdown know that Hyatt won, and they didn't just win. They had Usain Bolt style domination. Hyatt is the Tom Brady of budget hotels when you're thinking about how to get great value. So this is part of the reason why I like the Chase heavy setup. And then Hilton is also an option as well. Obviously, it would only be from what's coming from your Blue Business Plus with the 2X everywhere, but at least it's an option. It's good for topping up. Another nice thing in this setup is all those Chase points. You can always cash them out for a penny each and then use it to buy Hilton points or something along those lines if you need to, or Wyndham points when they're on sale for 0.72 each. Let me pause here and catch up on comments. Where were we? Yep, we already mentioned that. It's the hypothetical if the USBAR was banned. Yes, that's it. I feel like if you were transferring to Marriott and Hilton, you would be better cashing out your points and waiting for a 100% buy bonus. Most of the time you would be. The problem is, like I said, if you transfer from Marriott to Hilton, Amex to Hilton, when there's a 30% bonus, it's the equivalent of cashing out at 1.3 cents per point. I don't have a way to cash out my Amex points at 1.3 cents per point. So if you have a pile of money dedicated to buying points, yes, that's good. In situations where you are tight on cash and need to save that for something else, transferring to Marriott with a 30%, transferring to Hilton with a 30% bonus is better than buying if those are your only two options. New Again says, yikes, I do not like that Chase heavy setup. Chase just isn't very good. It only works if you're a Hyatt drone. Call me a Hyatt drone then, because I like them some of the time. RemGB says the most underrated benefit of the US Bank Altitude Reserve is it's the perfect two-card setup, or excuse me, perfect player two-card. When in doubt, in person, always use US Bank Altitude Reserve for my instructions, except for Walmart. I can swallow the missed 0.5% versus using a 5% card. I agree with that. YouTube Experiment just got home from work. Glad to see you on board. Still going strong. Awesome. Yeah, it's already almost noon. I got to wrap this up. An obvious is an obvious is an obvious. I think Matt Clausen's the one who says that usually. All right. I'm getting close to the end here. Got to talk about my point valuations. So I value Wyndham still at 1.25 cents per point. No change there. I value both Chase and Amex at 2 cents per point. I debated this for a while. Like, where should I pin it? That's really generic because, yeah, sometimes you're going to get 15 cents per point. A lot of times you're going to get 4 or 5 cents per point. But sometimes I'm going to use the portal just because I need to, because there's no other good way to do it other than penny points. Occasionally I'm going to have to cash out penny points in this scenario because I don't have like the US Bank Altitude Reserve for things like boat rides in Sweden or the Hoover Dam parking lot or that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go 2 cents per point. Therefore, your gas is still going to be a 10% cashback equivalent because that's going on the Wyndham. Your telecom now jumps up to 10% cashback equivalent because we've got your business cash going to Staples or cable internet at 5x doubled, 2 cents per point. Your dining is going to be 6. You're going to put that on one of these two cards, your Flex or Sapphire Reserve. Double it, you're going to get 6. And your everywhere else is going to be at 4 because you're earning 2 cents per point or 2 points per dollar, and you're getting 2 cents per point. So that's going to be 4 on your everywhere else. Here's your plausible budget redone. I'm not going to spend as much time. I'm just going to kind of go through it here. Mobile wallet, I'm going to give away what was mobile wallet. I'm going to give 6% to playing the 5% game. So that's a new category. Call it 5% arbitrage. And this is like either using your Freedom Flex when there's a 5% category or going to Staples and buying Visa gift cards when they're on sale for no purchase fee with your Ink Cash. So what was in mobile wallet was $11,000. I'm giving away $6K to the 5% game and adding 5% to everywhere else. So the budget's going to be exactly the same. It's still $57,000. I'm just having to shuffle things around since I don't have mobile wallet anymore. Dining is going to be $5,000 times 6%. That's $300. I think that's slightly better than what it was before. Amazon is just slightly better. It's instead of 3x, it's 4x. That's $160. Gas stays exactly the same, $1,000. Walmart increases ever so slightly. I'm using my Blue Business Plus at Walmart, $400. Grocery is going to increase just a skosh because it was 3 times 1.4, which would be, or no, grocery went down a little actually because it was the saver at 3 times 1.5, which was 4.5. Now it's merely 4. I think that took it down $10. Telecom goes up quite a bit, but it's not a big category, so that's $200. Everything else is a much larger now because I don't have mobile wallet anymore, and that's at 4%, which comes out to $560. Utilities went up just a little because I was forced to move it from the Cash Plus over to Wyndham. That's almost feels disingenuous because sometimes I need the cash. Nevertheless, that's what the math comes out to. I had to move my gym down to over to everything else also because I don't have a gym card anymore. The 5% game, which this is the arbitrage with your Freedom Flex and your Ink Cash, $6,000 at 10% cashback equivalent, $6,000. So we have the exact same budget of $57,000. This time we get $3,550 cashback equivalent. which is a 6.2% cashback equivalent aggregate. You do not have to memorize these numbers because I will show you a comparison right now. So based on what I've done so far, my first setup was $2,845, which is 4.99% cashback equivalent. And the Chase Heavy setup is $3,550, which is a 6.2% cashback equivalent. That's a difference of $705. So just thinking value on paper, which there's tons of subjectiveness in terms of ease, opportunity, those kind of things. But if you're just going with the paper valuations that I made, which I think are fairly conservative, the Chase setup comes out ahead $705. But wait, there's more. There are some drawbacks to this Chase Heavy setup, and a few people mentioned them. You're going to lose the 8 Priority Pass restaurants that you had with the US Bank Altitude Reserve. It's a higher annual fee and a higher net annual fee. So I'll come back to that and break it down. But obviously, the only thing we had was the Wyndham and the Capital One Venture X on my first setup, which both kind of pay for themselves. Not so much here. Now, I think this is where I made my editing error. Remember my first wallet, I said there was no grocery category. I meant to put that here, and I don't think I did. So just in case, I'll mention, you don't have a grocery category anymore. Now, admittedly, I'm only spending $2,000 a year at normal grocery stores, aside from shenanigans. So it's probably not that big of a deal, but I thought I'd mention it. Also, all of your everywhere else spend, the Amex part, which goes in the Blue Business Plus, you don't have any penny point option. Like there's no travel eraser, there's no pay yourself back, there's nothing like that. So there's no way to cash out your everything else money. You could still cash out what you earn on these three guys, and you just have to do that when necessary. But I always like having the 1 cent per point fallback, and I don't have that here. It's a more complex setup, and what I mean by that is this. It relies even more heavily on rotating categories and gift card tricks. So you're going to have to invest more time into tracking and being careful with this setup. I think the first wallet, the Capital One USBAR setup, was an easier setup. And the 1.5x portal on the Sapphire Reserve is less good than real-time rewards, because in the portal, you can only use what shows up in the portal. There's 3 drawbacks. One is you can only use what shows up in the portal, and the Hoover Dam parking lot is not in the portal, nor is the boat ride in Sweden, those kind of things. Secondly is you can't double dip in the portal. You're not earning any points. With the Sapphire Reserve, with the Altitude Reserve, you're earning at least 1 cent per point. Oftentimes, you're earning 3 cents per point, depending on how things code. And then lastly, you're not booking directly with the travel agency. So you're not booking directly with the rental car company or airline or Amtrak or whatever. So if there's a problem, you have to go through Chase, which is not as good. I think it's overplayed as a hugely big deal. I'll get into a few more details on that in just a few moments, but now catching up on comments. Yuri says, my 5 cards would be the City Prestige, AT&T Access More, Altitude Reserve, Ink Cash, and Ink Preferred. What if Hyatt went dynamic, says Rodrigo? Would that shift your setup in any way? It probably would. I think better to have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I'm assuming you meant the first wallet setup that I had. Thank you, Siva. I don't think we've met before. Siva Krishna Van Devalzi. Sorry if I said that wrong. 5 cards, 2 for sure, would be the US Bank Altitude Reserve and Robinhood Gold. That would be a good fit if you can swing it. Highly likely are the Venture X, Amex Platinum, and Wyndham Business. Or even better, 5 cards, City Prestige, AT&T Access More, Altitude Reserve, Ink Plus, Blue Business Plus. Oh, Sierra clarifies. It's better to have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5x on rotating categories, 4x on grocery, dining at 3x, grocery and dining, 3x on travel, 2x catch-all, / 1.5 catch-all, and 1x on rent. I see what you did there. Okay, now I got it. My 5 cards assumed the card was not changed till the law is repealed. That's new again. All right. I'm getting close to wrapping this up, folks. It's already noon, so I got to go quickly. And I know it's noon because here in Iowa, the sirens, like the tornado alarms, are tested at noon every Saturday. Not every Saturday, the first Saturday of every month, which is today. Can you hear them? Probably not. All right, continuing on here. So now we've got a big comparison. There's a lot of stuff on the screen, but I'll explain it. This is just carrying over from the previous screen. The amount of cash back equivalent you get here, and the difference is $705 gross. But we need to take annual fees into consideration. So we're going to do that now. And I admit I'm going to work off net annual fees as much as Matt Clausen and others don't like using net annual fees. I think it's important. I'm only going to use the ones that are really easy to get. So I'm not going to use like DoorDash or that kind of stuff. So the Wyndham card has a $95 annual fee, and you could argue it offsets with points, but we're thinking like what's a cash equivalent? So I've got it on both sides either way, so it's not going to throw off the calculations. The Venture X charges you $400, rounded to the nearest $100, and then it gives you back 100 in points, 300s in your travel portal coupon. So I'm going to say the Venture X is free. The Altitude Reserve charges you $400, but gives you $325 in easy-to-use credits that are dining or travel, and you can get them all at once or piecemeal either way. So it nets out to $75. Saver and Cash Plus don't have annual fees, so don't need to worry about that. That totals $170 in net annual fees. Over here, the Chase heavy setup, Wyndham is exactly the same. The Chase Sapphire Reserve, you start with $550, and in order to have the Priority Pass Lounge access, I have to add an authorized user, and they charge $75. So now we're up to $625, and then they give you $300 back every year in easy-to-use travel credits, so that takes it down to $325 on the net. Add those two together, you got $420. So the Chase setup has $420 in non-recoverable annual fees, whereas my first setup, which I'll call the Cap One plus US Bank setup, for lack of a better term, $170. So the net difference is only $455, $705. So we're bringing them closer together, though the Chase Heavy still comes out ahead on paper. $2,675 versus $3,130, 4.69 versus 5.49. So closer here. So here's a summary. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, and what's best for me is best for you. I mean, there could be some wrong answers. If somebody said, I'm only going to get 5 different Fifth Third Bank 1% cashback everywhere cards, that would be a wrong answer. But between the two that I've proposed, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. If you forced me to pick right now, I would actually go with the setup on the left, the first wallet, the Capital One and Altitude Reserve combo, because I just think I would really rather have the Altitude Reserve working for me, being able to use the real-time rewards than using the Chase portal. I don't think either are bad. And of course, in the real world, there is no limit. So I do both of these. I think I have every single one of these cards except the Saver in real life. Yes, I have every single one of these cards except the Saver in real life. So obviously, I like them. So I would go with this one. Which one would you guys go with? Feel free to drop your comments. All right. Let me now catch up on comments. That's actually the end of the main event, or the theme of the day. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. Let's see. Where were we? Okay. QC Man says, I just got an ad for Credit One. Not sure what that says about your channel, Doug. I get a lot of those. I thought you said no business cards, though. No, all I said is that business cards count towards the limit of 5. You can still have business cards. You just can't fudge the rules by saying, I'm going to open an LLC and get around the rule. Nobody can hear the sirens. YouTube Experiment can't. Catch 631 can't hear them, but I'm cheating. It's not through the video. I can hear the sirens, but I'm cheating. It's not through the video. Okay, well, either you're in Iowa or in a place that has the same rule. Careful out there. It's a bright, sunny day. It looks like we're good. All right. Yuri keeps changing his mind on his setup. Chris Sevi says, I prefer the CSP, Sapphire Preferred, Freedom Flex, and US Bank Altitude Reserve, 3.1 dining and online grocery with 3X member world. What's MW? I'm not sure on that. Mobile wallet. Duh. That's pretty good too. Yeah. I kind of like the simplicity of having the Capital One Duo here, especially when I'm traveling outside the United States. Although I'm probably not going to be traveling outside the United States very much. I think there's, in this hypothetical world, I think there's one thing we need to really point out here is that this would be so disappointing if you're only getting $2,600 or $3,100 in rewards every year because you can't get new sign-up bonuses. Man, that would stink. And I think it comes back to what I preach all the time. Sign-up bonuses are where it's at. I know we love to talk about wallets. I mean, shoot, that's what this whole video is about and how I got to 99 views. So I'm glad people like talking about it. I sure do too. But honestly, getting 2 killer diller sign-up bonuses every year is probably better. My wife got the business platinum, 250,000. And by the time you factor in, just the ordinary spend that went on it, with that one card, she probably got this much value. Because even if I cashed out at a penny each, it would be roughly that much. And then you could do all your normal spend on top of it. So yeah, do that and the venture card once a year or something like it, or the CSP, the city CSP, and you're already coming out ahead. It's so cool, so awesome. I do have to give a quick shout out to Rich and the Rich with Points website, because I use that for looking up a lot of information quickly while doing my research. One of the things I like is they have this comparison tool. So if you just wanted to just say compare the Aeroplan card with the altitude reserve, let's say, you can do that. And you can just scroll down. I like to toggle this thing off and just see who's better on which category and that kind of stuff. Pretty cool, huh? So richwithpoints.com if you want to help him out. Okay. I normally do a bathroom break, but today I am going to forego that and just go directly to the community tab questions here, because I am on a time frame and I may not even get to all of them. I apologize if I don't get to all of them. First of all, every Friday, somewhere around 5 to 7 p.m. Central Time, I will post a community tab question. And when you go on that, you can use or ask me a question and I will read it on today's program. I also share a picture and you're supposed to guess where that picture was taken. So here's today's picture. It's me in a bathrobe, something kind of swanky. So I'll read through that until somebody identifies it correctly. Here are the community tab questions. There's not a whole lot today. Richard B. Travels says or asks this: I know using cards with the best multiplier typically gives the most value, but spending towards things like sign-up bonuses, companion passes, or free night certificates or lease status feels more rewarding. Thoughts? I agree with you. I think that is what comes out ahead. So if you're watching, Richard, I think I answered your question before you even asked it. So thank you. Yeah, you have to do that. You have to get sign-up bonuses to make this worthwhile, or big spend bonuses or status or something like that. Catch 631 asked this question: in honor of Dugroz Eats, I love that video. That was my April Fool's video if you haven't found it yet. What's your favorite place for a burger in the Des Moines metropolitan area? The best cheeseburger I have ever had in my entire life, this is going to sound weird, was at the Science Center of Iowa in Des Moines. It's, just like the name sounds, it's a science center. We go do experiments. Kids love it, that kind of stuff. And in their cafeteria, we walked in like 2 minutes before it was about to close, and the cook said, hey, if you buy a single patty hamburger, I'll give you a double cheeseburger for free or for no additional cost. So I said, yeah, that's fine. They must have super fresh beef right there on the grill, and it was like, oh, so juicy, so fresh. The best cheeseburger I've ever had in my life was at the Science Center of Des Moines, so go there. If you're looking for fast food burgers, it's Culver's, which I showed you earlier in the day. Thanks so much for the question, Ketch. S. Beery asked this question: I have a AA business card with no annual fee in the first year. I'm pretty new, and I'm paranoid that if I cancel it at the end of my first year, I'll lose my points. Do you have any experience with this? Thank you, S. Beery. I appreciate it. I think I know the answer with 99% confidence. I have never had an AA card, but with those co-branded cards, the points live on the partner. They don't live on the card. So once the points hit your American Airlines account, Obviously, wait till the end of the first year so that they don't get mad at you. But you can cancel and you'll still have your American Airlines points. I'm 99% sure of that, but if somebody can verify, please speak up over here in the chat or in the comment section if you're watching after the fact. I can tell you that I canceled my wife's IHG card on the first anniversary. I waited just long enough to get the free night certificate. And not only did she get to keep her IHG points, she got to keep the free night certificate. So I'm pretty sure that's how co-branded cards work. Sleepy Rod asked this question: does a 5-card setup matter if the goal is chasing subs? Nope. And I love chasing subs. If Filmo were here, he would tell you he does too. And I think I already talked about how you get so much more value. Ian K said, I'd like a data point on if your Amex account is showing a transfer bonus to Etihad. Oh, well, I'm not able to look it up right now, Ian, but if you want to catch me offline, I'd be happy to. Does anybody else have a transfer bonus on Etihad showing in their Amex account, or is that some weird targeted experience? Ron Byrne asked this question, or doesn't ask it. He made a guess on the photo, and he said his guess is that this picture was taken at the Salamander Middleburg Resort in Virginia. And ding, 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 he's right. So yes, those of you who followed my channel know I used some Citi points, some Wells Fargo points to transfer 1 to 2 to Citi, and then I used Citi to book a preferred hotel called the Salamander Resort in Middleburg, Virginia, which is sort of like an hour west of Washington, D.C. Go through Arlington, then head west. And it was very swanky. In fact, an anonymous person said Swanky McSwankberg for one of the comments. Reagan Playboy Library says, Mr. Roz, is that you? And I corrected him. Dr. Doog is the lover of finer things. So that's Dr. Doog. Mr. Roz is the hick who wears overalls and likes eating gas station pizza. But yes, you're correct, Ron Byrne. That was the Salamander at Middleburg. 5,000 Dugroz points to you. And he also asks, are your kids signing up for the 100K offer to transfer points to you? Let's see. That would be, I don't know what the 100K offer is. What earns Choice Hotel points that gets 100,000 points? Is that like the City Strata Premier? No, they can't get credit cards on their own until they're 18, is my understanding. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, although they are authorized users. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate that. Speaking of fancy hotels, QC Man, quality control man himself, asks, what's the worst experience you've had at a fancy hotel where you had high expectations? Well, I got to be honest with you, Ron, I haven't stayed at that many fancy hotels or ones where I've had high expectations. So I think I'm going to have to transition to just any hotel. One that I've mentioned in the past is there's a Hyatt Place near the Phoenix Airport in Phoenix, Arizona. And you can tell it's an old hotel they bought and then transitioned to a Hyatt Place. I was new in the game. This was 2020. It was right before COVID. We went to the Grand Canyon and Antelope Canyon, that kind of stuff in February of 2020. And like a month later, the world shut down. So thank goodness we got that in. But yeah, it was kind of a crusty Hyatt Place. I gave it a 3-star rating on Google. Just like, you had to go up a step to get into the bathroom. There was like old linoleum. It wasn't that bad, but it definitely didn't live up to the standard I think of for a Hyatt Place. So that's what I'm going to say for my worst hotel experience. And honestly, I guess I'm lucky if it's never been that bad. Oh, one I had that was also not great was when I went to Yorktown, Virginia. There's a town nearby called Newport News, and I stayed at a Holiday Inn that was converted from like some sort of institution. Like a lot of the doors were double doors that were metal. I wondered if it used to be like an insane asylum or a hospital or something. And it was fine, but the problem is it faced a major highway and they had floor to ceiling windows, wall to wall, floor to ceiling windows. And every time a semi went by, it was coming into town, they used their engine brakes. So, I could barely sleep that night. I ended up taking the cushions off the couch, any extra pillows, and like stacking them against the window, putting in earplugs, turned my sound machine up as loud as it would go. And I kind of managed to get maybe 5 hours of sleep that night, but that was disappointing. So Hyatt Place and Holiday Inn, thank you for asking. I appreciate that, QC man. And that brings us to an end. So let's just review who gave a super chat, and then we'll be done for the day. So Tom Graber started off with $5. John R, $2. Ian, $9.99. Thank you. TH, $2. TH also became a new member, which is the equivalent of $3. Spaithco, $5. Xavier, $4.99. QC Man gifted a membership worth $3, and Mike Newland gifted a membership worth $3. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it so much, and we'll call it a day. As always, may your spending be frugal, and may your points be plenteous. Thanks for watching. Oop. Also, QC Man dropped $1.99. Snuck one in there at the wire. Thank you.